across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, July the 10th. Here's what's coming up. You put a migrant in, you put a migrant out, you do the hokey-cokey and you shake it all about. Yes, globalists' partners in crime, Messieurs Starmer and Macron, have sealed their bizarre one-in, one-out deal, and it's impossible to work out. How does playing Swap the Foreigner solve the migrant crisis on the numerical front? As I keep saying, the essence of the migrant crisis is numerical. We have too many people coming into the country is officially full. So if we're just going to play Swap the Foreigner, one in, one out, that doesn't solve the essence of the problem, does it? 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, after 2,599 crossed the channel illegally last week and hundreds more pitched up from France today. It was a big day on the channel today. Two tiers so-called groundbreaking plan to send back 50 a week seems kind of pathetic, doesn't it? 0344499 1000. And I'll tell you right now, once the massed ranks of our money-grabbing immigration lawyers get stuck into this Kafkaesque mess, put your money on not a single migrant getting kicked out. And even if they do, what happens to them back in France? Do they just perform a U-turn and head for Calais and the next dinghy to Dover? My guess, of course they do. 0344499 1000. And whatever happened to smash the gangs? Does this finally mean that Starmer is the last person in Britain to realise that plan was always a total joke, doomed to guaranteed failure? 0344499 1000. In other news, I'll ask why, in its effusive coverage of the 20th anniversary, the BBC was so reluctant to mention that the 7/7 bombings were the murderous acts of Muslims, Islamic terrorists. 0344499 1000. Plus, the worrying assaults on our basic rights to trial by jury and not to be arrested or punished by the police unless the cops have evidence to prove a crime. Plans are afoot to wipe all of that out. This is worrying, folks. Also, Greg Wallace, his underpants and autism, and the alarming rise in diagnoses of mental health conditions that lead to Britain's easily attained prize of generous welfare benefits for life. And in an hour or so, I'll be joined by the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins, as another big beast Tory defects to Reform UK. Former Conservative Party Chairman Sir Jake Berry sent shockwaves through Westminster when he announced last night he was joining Nigel Farage's ever-growing party. By the way, Farage was out on the channel today, and it was a very, very big day. We don't know the exact numbers, but experts that I know are saying we're talking 700 at least, maybe quite a lot more. Farage was out on the channel. He's done this before, spotting all of this. 0344499 1000. Also, the worrying power grab by Starmer's best human rights lawyer mate, Lord Richard Hermer, the Attorney General from hell, who has now given himself the right of veto over all government policy in case it breaches his beloved rule of law. 0344499 1000. I mean, what Hermer thinks, by the way, is that the rule of law should be more important than anything. Well, I say we don't vote for a rule of law. We don't vote for attorney generals. We don't vote for lawyers. We vote for a democratically elected government. And horrible though it is, Keir Starmer should be calling the shots. He is our elected Prime Minister. There cannot be a power higher than him. And this is the problem. The rule of law seeks to make our government subordinate to it. All these lawyers in Parliament, oh, absolutely, absolutely. No, this has to stop. And Hermer has to be stopped in his tracks. Don't you agree? 0344 499 1000. Also, the shock plot by Iran to kill 15 British Jews. And finally, we're putting Meghan on the couch, a psychologist's assessment of the Duchess of Sussex and her increasingly manic behaviour. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. And it being Thursday, always one of my favourite days, because my guest for the next hour in the studio, senior fellow from the New Culture Forum, Philip Kilsey. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to be here.
Always a pleasure. We've got some good stuff to get through here. Well, I say good. It's typical journalist, isn't it? We've got these terrible stories. Great. I've seen that in newsrooms. How many dead? 50. Marvellous. You know, it's a sort of. It can be rather twisting to be a journalist. So these stories are not necessarily anything to celebrate. In fact, they're definitely not. But they're what we call in the trade good stories. Now, let's talk first of all about what we saw earlier. You know, those two globalist chums, Monsieur Macron and Monsieur Starmer, standing there at this bizarre press conference, asking this answering questions on this equally bizarre one in, one out deal. I guess before we get to talk about this, Philip, we should remind ourselves of the two men giving this press conference not so long ago.
So I'm pleased to announce our agreement today on a groundbreaking returns pilot. For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
Thank you very much, Keir. This is, as I said, it's Kafkaesque. It really is. It's an absolute mess. First of all, Philip, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's see what we can do. You know, so many angles to attack this from. First of all, this isn't one in, one out effectively. I mean, what this will amount to is that every 1 in 17 British migrants, migrants who pitch up here, could be selected to go back to France. So my first question to you, and indeed, if any of you people in my wonderful audience know the answers to these questions, you're a better man or woman than I am, but please do ring in and tell us. First of all, how do they select that 1 in 17?
Absolutely no idea.
Thank you. Let's move on to that. But the thing is, Philip, nor does Starmer and nor does
nobody
Macron.
knows. Nobody knows. I think the really interesting thing about this is just putting it in perspective, because we're talking about here, 50 a week, something like that.
Yeah, 50 to 50 a week. Yeah.
It's 50 a week. Okay, you said today there's about over 700.
We think 700 days, 2,599 last week. Think about that.
So it's anything up to 1,000 a day, right, at the moment. Yeah. Now, how the hell have we got here? Because in 2018, it was around the number of migrants crossing the channel was 299 for the year, right? You cut to 2022, and it's just short of 40,000, right? They don't want to do.
And this year it's going to be more than 50,000. More than 50,000.
This year it's going to be more. So this is like a sticking plaster on an amputated leg, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything. In fact, it's just going to make things worse because it gives the signal, it communicates a signal that we are helpless, that we cannot do anything, and that we won't do anything. So people will just pile on the boats. They will just come over. Oh yeah, one will go over. We don't know who, why, or where, or what ethnicity or whatever, but one will go back over, and things will just carry on as usual, and the numbers will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we'll get more frustrated, and our country will become more dangerous because, as we know, these are undocumented males. By and large, they're young fighting age males, and they are wreaking havoc in our towns and cities.
Indeed, absolutely. Now, the political lobby, not famous for putting people like Starmer and Macron really on the spot. They didn't really ask too many of the proper questions here, but one of them did say, how do they select the 1 in 17? And Starmer's response was, oh, I'm not going to get into that now, here. That's because he hasn't got an answer. OK, so I have some other questions they should have asked. We'll get into the immigration lawyer issue in just a minute. So let's just say they've selected the 1 in 17. They then send him, because it'll almost certainly be a he. They send him back to France. Then what happens to him? What happens?
He comes back here. He jumps back in a dinghy and tries his luck again, because there is going to be a point when he stays here. You know, 2 or 3 times.
So I don't think nobody asked that, and I don't think they thought that through. So at the moment, the plan, folks, seems to be that we pick 1 in 17 using a method that we don't know, that we have no idea what it is, nor does Starmer, nor does Macron. Then we send, the hapless 1 in 17 back to France, and then they don't know what they're going to do. As Philip said, and as I said in my monologue, here's what they'll do. I mean, you can't lock them up or anything like that. They'll just do a U-turn. They'll go back to Calais, get back on the first dinghy to Dover. Right, here's my next point. You know what the mass ranks of our money-grabbing immigration lawyers are like. They'll be all over this like a rash. I mean, there'll be immigration lawyers in this country going, oh, I like the sound of this 1 in 1 out scheme. We're going to make some Mazuma here. Oh, give me a bank manager. That new car you've been wanting, Elsie, go and buy it. We're going to make some serious money now. So, once they get their hands into this, and by the way, every migrant that comes over gets a lawyer. That's another issue, but they do. Now, you're the lawyer for the 1 in 17 that's just been chosen to be kicked back to France. They'll have a field day with it. I mean, the first thing they're going to go is, well, why my client? What about the other 16? Honestly, they will tie this scheme up in legal knots, and my prediction is, I don't think they'll get a single migrant back to France because of the mess of it, and because these immigration lawyers, I mean, they're money grabbers, but they're no fools. They will destroy the chance of sending anybody back quite easily, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's just a great big payday for them. And again, I re-emphasise the point because I think it's really important. It just sends a message out to everybody else that we are fair game, that everybody can come over here, and it isn't just the lawyers as well. It's the hotels, it's Serco, it's all of that infrastructure which has built up around this. If they are serious about dealing with this, they're not talking about 50 people a week. They're talking about thousands and thousands of people a week. They're talking about everybody. They should be talking about turning everybody back. So they're not serious. There's no point even taking this seriously. Because,
I agree.
Because if they were serious, then they would have to dismantle this whole massive money-making scheme that's built up around it. And they can't do that, because if they do that, then they have to really speak truth to power, not their power. I'm talking about business power. And it's the Labour Party, for God's sake. They just simply cannot do that.
So check this out, folks, and you'll like this. The Telegraph, Daily Telegraph, to its credit, has got their calculator out. And let's take a sort of average day of migrants coming across the channel. The Telegraph has worked out that under this new, what Starmer called it, groundbreaking scheme, they've worked out it will take 3 months to send back 1 day's worth of migrants.
3 months.
3 months.
Exactly. You know, it's just kicking the ball down the beach, isn't it? It's not gonna. It really isn't gonna do anything. It just feels as though they've given up, and the only things that they can deal with are very short-term sound bites, little bits of PR.
It's headline chasing.
It's headline chasing.
Short-term headlines. We've reached a deal, a groundbreaking deal. No, you haven't.
And they're hoping that we'll forget it tomorrow, but we're not forgetting any of it. Okay, we're not forgetting this. We talked about the grooming scandal, the grooming gang scandal last week. We're not forgetting that. None of this stuff goes away. So it tells me that they are just absolutely short-term. They know they're in a terrible mess. They know they've got no future. I would say the Labour Party has got no future, not just this government. And they are acting accordingly. And it's very dangerous for us. And as always, with this kind of stuff, with these kind of people that they're dealing with, undocumented young males, it's women and children who are going to suffer.
And as I said in my monologue, the essential nature of the migrant crisis is numerical.
Yeah.
This is a country with 70 million people in it. When I was a kid, there were about 50 million. It is growing. Our population is growing exponentially at a terrifying rate, basically because of our migrant crisis, both legal and illegal. So it's numerical. Too many people are coming to this country, legally and illegally. We're letting in too many people. So it's numerical. How does one in, one out solve the problem of the numerical migrant crisis?
You're asking me some hard questions today.
Well,
it doesn't solve the question.
It's not that difficult.
It doesn't solve the problem, and as I say, it's not supposed to. I think the problem is bigger than most people actually think it is. For one very pressing reason, we don't actually know how many people are in the country because there are so many people here illegally.
Yeah. Right? Exactly.
And that is quite a terrifying thought. Now, you juxtapose that, you're talking, God knows what it is, 70, 75, 80 million people. You juxtapose that against one in and one out, and then you see how catastrophic it really is.
Yeah, and my final question to you is, whatever happened to smash the gangs? I mean, this nonsense, this bizarre hokey-cokey swap the foreigner game that these two idiots just announced, that inherently means that Keir Starmer is essentially declaring, well, smash the gams didn't work, I've got a new plan now.
Yeah, let's forget about that.
Let's move on. That was last week's cheap headline.
That was last week's groundbreaking strategy. This is this week's groundbreaking strategy. Don't worry, there'll be another one next week.
Yeah, there will be. There will be. And one thing I want to stress to the audience, that trust me, down on the channel today, beautiful weather, channel like a mill pond. It's like Piccadilly Circus. They started coming across this morning around about 4:30 in the morning. Somebody told me that by 8 this morning, 120 had already pitched up, and I'm hearing it's a big number this week. I mean, conservative 600-700, but it could be quite a lot more than that. And you know what's funny about that, Philip, is there'd been no migrants coming over for the last 2 days because all of a sudden the French were doing their job. They were patrolling like crazy, stopping the boats because they didn't want to embarrass Macron when he was here on his stupid, baffling state visit. What is that all about, by the way? Do you think, by the way, give me a call, do you think can you think of better ways, any better ways to spend £5 million of taxpayers' money, than sucking up to Macron on a state visit? Can you think of anything? I can. I mean, let me know what you think about that. Well, did you know the banquet at Windsor, in the Great Hall of Windsor the other night? They estimate that could have easily cost. It's a minimum of 120,000, probably about 300,000.
Yeah, I heard between 300 and 400.
Yeah.
And his speech for the the whole of his speech, all he talked about was Brexit. He was like a drunken Ramona on 7 glasses of red wine, banging on about Brexit all the time and how terrible it was.
Yeah, let us know what you think. He's done this. He did it again today. What do you think about? We spent £5 million on this guy coming over, this pipsqueak president of France who hates us, by the way. Yeah. We give him a 300 grand feast. They dress all their stupid clothes and go to all these banquets and functions and things, preening, sucking up to him, and he detests us. Why do you think we did that? And what do you think of the fact that during his term here, his 3 days here, they're just ending now. He's still on this visit officially right now, so it's just sort of ending as we speak. Did you notice he bombarded us with the horror of Brexit? We were conned. He kept saying it. Oh, the British people were conned. Brexit was a terrible mistake. So we give £5 million for him to come over and tell us, the British people, that we were conned and we made a terrible mistake on Brexit. And by the way, the other thing that him, Starmer, and the bloody king bombarded us with was the term irregular migrants. This was part of their Orwellian scheme. We need to get rid of that word illegal. Now, I don't entirely blame His Majesty Charles, the King, for his part in this horrible process. I think he should have maybe kicked back on that one. But you have to remember, basically on a state visit, the King, the sovereign, formerly the Queen, of course, they just do what they're told. They get the speech written for them and all that. But don't fall for that, folks. It's not irregular migration. It's illegal migration. Don't let them change what we call the illegal migrant crisis, because they're trying an Orwellian trick to replace the correct term with a kind of nice euphemism to make the migrant crisis seem less harsh. That's what they're trying to do. Don't fall for it, folks. Never, ever let a politician tell you that you have to be careful with your language. That's none of their business, what we say. OK, let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about 7/7. Obviously, we've been marking the 20th anniversary of that horrific series of bombing attacks in London. I remember it well, walking around town that day. More than 50 people killed, more than 700 injured. We've been remembering it quite rightly. The BBC, in its commemorative programmes and its articles, didn't seem to sort of mention who actually committed the crime. It was Muslims. It was Islamic extremists. The only time the BBC, in its coverage of this, brought the Muslim narrative into the equation was to discuss, get Muslims to say how profoundly this bombing attack has changed their lives. So this, shall we say, sycophancy towards the Muslim community, the Islamic community, by the BBC, I think is a massive problem. They are cheerleading this kind of cultural invasion, and we will talk about that after this break.
individual clinicians working incredibly hard are stressed out, burnt out. That is true. Is the system as a whole using the commitment of the people who work for it in an efficient way? Absolutely not. And the people who are the expert witnesses on that are the clinicians themselves, who feel that their time isn't being used properly. And therefore, it's a leadership and a management issue.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Philip Kilsey, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Now, we're going to discuss 7/7, the 20th anniversary, and the coverage of that sad birthday, if you like, on the BBC. I was kind of alerted to this by the great Rod Liddle, you know, regular guest on this show every Tuesday. Of course, he writes a column for The Sun, Sunday Times, and this one is his new article in The Spectator. I'll basically read out the first paragraph. You're going to get the idea. Off he goes. Did you take part in any of the mysterious commemorations last weekend? The newspapers were full of it, something called 7/7 apparently. I read a long report on the BBC's website about this tragedy, but remained entirely unclear as to who killed the people on those trains and that bus. The report said bombs were detonated on the tube, as if the bombs, anxious to fulfil their purpose in life, had blown themselves up without the aid of any external agency. Nowhere in the report did it mention who brought the bombs down from Yorkshire and then set them off. Nowhere in the entire article were the words Islam or Islamist or even Muslim mentioned, nor even the names of the murderers. It was as if they were coincidental to the atrocity and not worthy of consideration. It's extraordinary, isn't it? The BBC is the cheerleader for this strange sycophancy we have towards our Islamic community, our Muslim community. You know, I think, you know, we treat them with respect. Most of them are very good people, no doubt about that. But when the extremists among them commit terrorist atrocities, and by the way, Islamic extremists commit the vast majority of terrorist atrocities all over the world, and certainly in this country, we, Philip, have an aversion to mentioning that.
We do. We have one now, and we had one at the time. I mean, like you, I remember this vividly. And the first press footage that I saw of it was Ken Livingstone, who was the
mayor then,
mayor
of London. Yeah.
And his first reaction was, "Let's not blame anyone." Let's not blame anyone. This was immediately in the immediate aftermath. He said, "Let's not blame
that's
anyone."
it, isn't it?
And that's the problem in a nutshell. So you go from 7/7, okay, and you go through various other atrocities, and then you get to the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017, and exactly the same thing happens again. Let's, you know, don't look back in anger. One love. Let's, you know, let's be peaceful and let's not be angry. In other words, and then you go to Southport last year, and again, you know, we're not allowed to even find out what's going on here. If we do, then we are considered far-right thugs. We're considered dangerous.
Racist, of course.
So there's this kind of, it's moved on slightly. So it used to be denying reality completely and just denying the truth. Now it's denying reality, and if you even think about reality, then you're going to get in trouble. So they become incredibly aggressive with it. The problem is we don't learn from history, okay? You have to confront these things. You have to understand what they are. You have to understand motivation. You have to understand context. If you don't deal with any of those things, these people laugh in your face and they will do it again. We are on the cusp of another atrocity because we're always on the cusp of another atrocity.
Because we're so unrealistic about the reality of what's going on. I mean, the only, as in the BBC's massive, effusive coverage of this, well, quite rightly, of course, nothing wrong with covering this awful anniversary.
Sure.
And they did a lot on it at the Beeb. The only time they started talking about Muslims and Islam was how the London atrocity had changed the lives of British Muslims and made them less trustful of the majority white community.
Yeah.
That's what they said. Well, you know, the truth of the matter is, you might not like this, but you know, here in the real world, you know, not on Planet BBC, these atrocities, what happened on London Bridge across the road here, Westminster, these atrocities made the white community of Britain, the non-Muslim community of Britain, suspicious of Muslims. The BBC won't say that.
The BBC won't say that, and the whole establishment won't say that. When this happened, I was working in the university sector at the time, and the response from the university sector, all of the research and teaching, etc., is, what have we done to make this happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's our fault. Why are we making these young men do this kind of stuff? And I just a slight anecdote here. I'd been stabbed the year before in Manchester. Yeah, I was walking home one night. I got stabbed twice, beaten up by a gang of Somali youths, 6 of them, and left for dead.
What, for
just for walking,
money?
yeah, for being on their streets.
It's not trying to nick your money or anything.
Well, they stole my phone and beat me up, dragged me into a park, and left me for dead.
Blimey.
Now, the point is, that really focuses the mind. But what focuses the mind more...
one way of putting it.
Well, what focuses the mind more is the reaction that I had. And it was exactly the same. It was, oh, well, why have they done that? It must be your fault. You know, they wouldn't... It was because I was essentially... I was white and male and heterosexual. It must be my fault. It couldn't be their fault. And that's the problem. We don't deal with reality. We just deal with myths, and we deal with heroes and villains. And if you are white, male and heterosexual, you are a villain.
Yeah, nobody's pointing the finger, of course, at the vast majority of Muslims or our Islamic community. But, as I say, around the world, and especially in Britain, the vast majority of terrorist atrocities are carried out by Islamic extremists. That's a fact, and the BBC doesn't want to tell you that. In fact, the only way they want to talk about Muslims in terms of terrorist atrocities is how they affect them. You know, how they make them feel less trustful of the white community, apparently. I'm not sure how they work that out. Meanwhile, of course, Angela Rayner has a working party group committee to secretly redefine Islamophobia and make Muslims the only religion, or Muslimism, the only religion that we're not allowed to criticise or laugh at. Now, that is extraordinary. Why just Islam? What about Hindus? What about Sikhs? What about Christians? What about Jews? Why does Labour want to make a special case for Islam and Islamophobia? Because, frankly, in this country, this is an important issue of freedom of expression. We should be able to laugh at, criticise, say what the hell we like about all religions. If you want to go down this route, you can't just choose Islam. You've got to take all religions, but that would take us back to the blasphemy laws, and we don't want that again. So this is sinister and worrying as well.
This is really sinister, because what they're doing here is they're conflating Islam, religion, with race. And if you and essentially what they're saying is, if you criticise Islam, you are racist, and it's the same old story, isn't it? You know, we've got to get into a situation where we value truth and people's lives over accusations of being racist. That's the thing we're most concerned about, and we really do have to push back on this. That the Labour Party is doing this is just appalling, and you have to think, why are they doing this? One of the reasons they're doing this is because they rely on the Muslim vote.
On the Muslim vote, yeah, they want to suck up to Islam. That's because they need that. There's 4 million or so Muslims in this country. Obviously, not all old enough to vote, but I think it's more than 2 million votes, and Starmer's going to need them at the next election. Let me know what you think about this. You know, why it seems to me worrying that the BBC is the cheerleader in this process that sort of subjugates traditional British culture, that we come second to particularly Islam, but foreigners generally. You know, I don't want to be superior to them. I want to be equal to them.
Yeah. In your own country.
Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously, I want to give them a fair, but the same as equal treatment to everyone. The BBC and the bien-pensant, Guardian-reading North London elite, they seem to want us to take second place, or third place, or fourth place to these foreign cultures. By all means, bring your foreign culture here and enjoy your life here, but don't expect to take us over. And I find it worrying that the state broadcaster, as I say, is cheerleading that process. Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of our fundamental rights as citizens of this country that I think are under attack. Again, this is pretty sinister, folks, so stick around for that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, Philip and I was still with Philip Kilsley, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. We were just one of this strange attitude that some people have to terrorist attacks by Islamic extremists. We were just remembering the Manchester bombing, you know, the Ariana Grande concert, and all the people a large number of people in Manchester gathered after that, put candles out and started singing "Don't Look Back in Anger." And so, don't worry about that. As you said, Ken Livingstone, let's not blame anyone. Well, no, let's find out who did it and blame them and look back, not in anger, in fury. Yeah. In fury. We cannot be supine about this. You know, we should stand up for ourselves. If they attack us, we give them hell, right? 03444 991 1000. Now let's talk briefly about some of our fundamental rights which I think are under attack. Because our justice system is glacial, you know, just grinds so slowly, people are literally waiting 2 years to get to court. You know what they say, justice delayed is justice denied. Of course, if you want to get to court quickly, just nip up to Southport, have a riot, you'll be in jail within about 3 days. That's two-tier justice for you. But we're not talking about two-tier justice at the moment, which in itself is a scandal. But it has been proposed by retired Judge Brian Levinson. He also was in charge of the phone hacking inquiry. Yes, I've met old Brian. And he has said, in order to speed up our legal process by 20%, that various crimes should no longer have the right to be tried by jury. So we are talking, for example, possession of indecent photos of children, assaults on emergency workers, and fraud. That's just 3. There are other crimes as well. Now, I'm afraid, look, I'm not sort of defending people who commit those kind of crimes, particularly the children's picture one. But every citizen must have the right to be tried by jury if they want to. And that involves all crimes. There cannot be just crimes that the court decides. So this is an attack on a really basic, fundamental British right, a right we should all have, trial by jury, because if you're not tried by jury and you're tried by a judge, that gives the state a massive advantage over you, right?
And we know that the judicial system is overrun by activists, okay? So why not judges? This is about fairness, and trial by jury is a cornerstone of the British judicial system. But one of the statistic here is really interesting. There are almost 77,000 cases waiting for trial. So the system is completely broken. And their response is to just make the system worse, to break it even more, to remove any sense of justice from it. This is a huge story, and people should be really concerned about this. As you say, it doesn't matter the nature of the crime. It's the principle that we need to have a fair system.
Put yourself in the position of someone. These crimes are awful, particularly, as I say, the children's picture crime. Assaults on emergency workers is pretty terrible as well. But put yourself in the position of someone accused of one of those terrible crimes who knows they didn't do it, who knows they're innocent. And let me tell you, that by no means can you trust the legal system to prove the truth. It's who's got the best lawyer. But if you are accused of a crime like that, and it just goes straight to a judge, the chances are you'll get done, you'll be found guilty. If you go to 12 of your peers, the jury, and you've got a good lawyer, they'll be able to persuade those people. In other words, the wisdom of 12 members of the public, it does genuinely, massively outweigh the alleged wisdom of the judge. That's what this is all about. And I mean that. It's true. You take 12 citizens of this great country, they will have collectively a lot more wisdom, and they will be a lot more fair-minded than the judge. That's the point. Now, the other worrying development this week, the Southport inquiry into those terrible murders at the Taylor Swift dance class started this week. Now, the chairman of that is a guy called Sir Adrian Fulford, again, another retired judge. If you're a judge, you're retired, there's a lot of work going, freelance work, because we set up a new inquiry about every 3 days. Anyway, he said that he's going to consider a system by which people who are deemed to be a risk to the public by the police, people that the police think might be potential terrorists, think might be potential murderers or thieves or whatever, the police will be able to nab them and put restrictive punishments on them. They can't leave their home or something like that. Now, again, that, folks, is a really, really sinister development. That's what they do in North Korea. That's what they do in Russia. That's what they do in China. People about whom there is no evidence are arrested and they disappear. So what that removes is the requirement for the police to have evidence against you before they arrest you. So they don't need the evidence. They can arrest you and probably restrict your movements or something like that, just because they reckon you're a bit of a wrong 'un. Now, again, you might say, well, you know, I'm sure the police would be right and these people might be a threat to children or the safety of the public. I agree with that. This is an awkward position. But if we start letting the police just nick people just on a hunch, just because they reckon they're a wrong 'un, that is a very dangerous road to travel down.
It's an incredibly dangerous road to travel down, I agree with you. It's a combination of authoritarian... It's absolutely this government, 100%. It's a combination of authoritarianism and ineptitude, OK? Because they cannot work with the system they've got. And the system, it does have its faults, of course it does. But by and large, it does work. And you cannot take people off the streets, essentially because you don't like them, OK? So this is... Where does it stop? Where does it stop? OK, they might not like my politics. They might not like your politics. They
probably don't.
OK, and they probably don't, because we're always having a go at Keir Starmer on this show. But I'm being serious, you know, because this is where it leads to, isn't it? It is overtly political. And when they say to you that we care about you, we care about your safety, no, they don't. No, they don't. This is the, you know, we're talking the people who called the Southport murderer a Welsh choir boy here. You know, they don't care at all. They just cannot cope, and they just want an authoritarian system where they can control us.
Don't you think that, folks? Give me a call. Let me know what you think. I mean, again, I know you know, if the police say we reckon this guy might kill some children or something like that, or commit vile acts against women, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, it would be good to get them off the streets, and I agree, except for you can't really, as Philip says, that will be really a case of the police decide, we don't like that guy, right, we'll have him. They've got to have evidence. They've got to have a reason, a justifiable legal reason to arrest people. And if we get rid of that as a basic right, we're in trouble. We really are. So let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. When we come back, we need to talk about Greg Wallace and his underpants, and also autism. Seriously, we're going to discuss, shall we say, overdiagnoses of mental health issues. I think it's becoming a real crisis. That next. Stay tuned.
I lost my seat back in just over a year ago now, where I was sort of talking to friends, I was talking to my family, and we were having long discussions about, you know, Britain is so broken. Maybe we should think about leaving. And in fact, lots of my friends have left the country. We saw this extraordinary figures.
We all know people
16,500 people in the last year. And I've always cared deeply about Britain, the community. That's why I first ever stood for Parliament back in 2010. And I thought, no, I want to fight. I want to stay. This is my country. I love my country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. After the 8 o'clock news, going to be joined by Reform UK's Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins. I want to get her take on what she thinks of her former fellow Tory, big beast, Sir Jake Berry, former chairman of the Tory party, defecting to Reform UK, just as she did. There's a certain momentum going on here. I also want to get her take on the new groundbreaking one-in, one-out deal. So Dame Andrea Jenkins after the news. In the meantime, we haven't got that long to discuss Greg Wallace. In fact, Philip, we've got 8 minutes. No, you got 4 minutes. 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes. That's what he used to get loads of money for bellowing units of time. Why? He's not an expert on food. He's a fruit and veg man. That is lovely. That is. I mean. He's like some bloke down the market eating a pie. That is delicious, yeah. Right, you got 2 minutes. Anyway, he's sacked. And he's sacked for alleged inappropriate behaviour around women accused of groping them. The BBC says that since they began their inquiry last November due to a complaint, they've had 50 more complaints. There are allegations that he ran around the studio naked with just a sock on and not on his feet, if you know what I mean. And that he groped at least one woman. So there are 50 allegations out there. He says he's not going quietly, and to be honest with you, he's played, you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't take any particular position on this, but I don't like the fact he's playing the mental health card. He's basically saying, oh, I've got autism. Because one of the stories was that he didn't wear underwear and used to tell women about it, you know. And he's now saying that the reason, or friends, in other words him, are saying that the reason he didn't wear underwear was because of his autism. Eh? But what it apparently, it's truth. It's because he had an aversion to labels or something, he says. But he's also saying that the BBC ignored his autism and ignored his long-standing mental health issues, if he had any. So he's playing the mental health card. And I only mention that because it plays into what I really want to talk about now, which is what you might call Britain's over-diagnoses problem. We are diagnosing too many people, in my view, with mental health issues. Now, 531 people every day last year were granted welfare benefits due to their alleged mental health issues. That's one new PIP recipient every 3 minutes. Figures for April reveal that 407,000 people got the green light, for benefits, free cars, things like that, for mixed anxiety and depression, 62,000 for anxiety disorders, 83,000 for ADHD, and the 1.4 million people in April, this is just a sample month, who got PIP, represents a 70% rise since 2020. Not to mention the 32,000 lucky people who got free cars on the Motability scheme because they're depressed or they have anxiety. And I read another story that local councils are facing bankruptcy because so many kids are being diagnosed with mental health problems.
I mean, just to get back to Greg Wallace very, very quickly, what he should have done is play the trans card. He'd be back at work now.
Exactly, yeah.
A wig, and he'd be a pink wig, and he'd be there. This is. This comes as no surprise, and we've talked about this ridiculous PIP payment scheme before. One of the things that this pathologizing of all experience, and if everybody isn't completely happy and joyous and grinning all the time, then there is something wrong with you. No, some kind of stress and anxiety is actually good in your life. It's called living. It's called getting things done. It's called, having a family and a job and all of that kind of thing. But people weaponize it, don't they? And I'm not saying that some people don't have terrible mental health disorders. Of course they do. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about 83,000 people claiming for ADHD here. Well, what people tend to do is use it. It becomes part of their identity. It's my depression. It's my anxiety. And it's very useful. So I was in a academia for 25 years, and towards the end of that time, people never bothered about deadlines, okay? Because what they just used to say, I've got depression and anxiety, I'll hand it in later. And the institutions just say, okay then.
Oh, if you've got depression and anxiety, you've got mental health issues. Yeah. I mean, you know, this isn't to diminish or undermine
No, of course not.
the seriousness of mental health issues, but we know a lot of people are playing that card who don't really have mental health issues. You can get free benefits, you can get time off work. If you're a student, you don't have to hand your essays in on time, and so on and so forth. It's a good way of not getting sacked as well. And, you know, these days, naughty kids are being diagnosed with some sort of medical condition. No, they're just naughty kids, aren't they?
They're just naughty kids, but also it's people cling on to these things. It gives them some kind. It makes them a little bit special. It makes them unique. Of course, it doesn't, because everybody's got the same condition. But that's what they think, and so people are being paid for these imaginary conditions half the time. I'm not saying all of them are, but for half the time they're being paid for this. And ultimately, it comes down to us. It comes down to the taxpayer. It comes down to the viewers. It comes down to the listeners. We're paying for this, and it needs to stop because it's completely out of control. Unfortunately, Keir Starmer is not the man to stop it.
No, it's not. I think in this country, and that's what I think Greg Wallace is latching onto, is we do have a massive over-diagnosis problem. We diagnose conditions left, right and centre, and now it is part and parcel of our grotesque welfare system. You know, people are getting, as I say, free. More than 32,000 people last year got free cars on the Motability scheme. They'll go, they're not free, you have to take some of your benefits, you know, but you know what I mean. You basically get free brand new cars because you've got anxiety or depression. 20 people got brand new free cars because they had constipation. That's not a joke. That's true. 40 got free cars because they got tennis elbow. So it's ridiculous. So this overdiagnosis problem plays into our grotesque, bloated welfare system, and therefore we have a swirling mass of a problem, if you ask me. We spend £300 billion a year on our welfare system. That's
extraordinary.
That's obscene.
It's extraordinary, and it's not, like I say, it's not going to go away because it's part of the Labour ethos. It's part of socialism. It's part of what they do. They want to give away free things. Everyone's a victim. Everything's free, but nobody wants to pay for anything.
Exactly right. Philip, it's been an amazing hour. It always is. Love Thursdays with you. Now, in a little while, we're going to the news, and we will, after the news, be joined by Dame Andrea Jenkins. We need to talk about Jake Berry, her fellow former Tory who's defected to Reform UK. I also want to ask her what she thinks of the Southport inquiry, and, of course, the latest developments on the migrant crisis. So lots to talk about with Andrea. Stay tuned for that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Really want to hear from you. If you have got any idea why we spent £5 million to suck up to that little pipsqueak president of France, Macron, so that he could come over here, tell us to use the term irregular, not illegal migration, and to lecture us about what a mistake we made with Brexit. Why did we spend all that money on that? We did 300 grand for that obscene feast they had the other day at Windsor Castle. 300 grand for a dinner. Why? £5 million. That's how much his 3-day visit cost. He's still here at the moment, by the way. I don't think it's quite ended yet. And he came, all he did was tell us what a mistake we've made with Brexit. Let me know what you think about that, because it makes me really bloody angry, to be honest with you. 03444991000. Now, in a little while, we're going to be talking about Lord Hermer. He's the Attorney General. He has made a power grab. Basically, he's organised it so that all legislation, all policies have to go to him first, so he can decide whether or not they're lawful, the rule of law. So he's going to turn himself into the most powerful person in the country, and he's a left-wing lunatic. So that's not a good idea, is it? 03444991000. Now, let's get down to business. We need to talk to my excellent next guest. Really glad she agreed to come on, because I think these are interesting times, to say the least. She is the Reform UK Mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins. Welcome, Andrea.
Evening, Kevin.
Well, first of all, there's a few things I need to talk to you about, particularly this bizarre one-in, one-out deal and what's happening on the migrant crisis. Massive day on the channel, we're being told today. Hundreds coming across. We'll get to that in a minute, but I need to get your thoughts first on your former fellow Tory, Sir Jake Berry, obviously also ex-Conservative Party chairman, defecting to Reform last night. It happened live on my show. Now, you're a big name. You were a big noise when you defected. Jake Berry, very big beast as well. So it's all happening, isn't it? What do you think about Jake coming over?
Oh, I'm pleased that Jake is we're mates, and I knew this was happening. I've been speaking to Jake for the last on this subject the last month or so, and he was so disillusioned with the Conservatives, as I was, and as well. And he realises that, you know, Nigel is the one to save the country. I mean, he gave a great speech yesterday. Jake did, and yeah, fully behind him. I mean, I was his PPS. He's very bright. He's got tons of campaign experience. Remember, he was one of the first red wall seats in 2010 when he took his seat. Yeah. So I think that kind of experience, obviously I got elected in 2015 in a red wall, but is an amazing campaigner. And I think bringing that to the party as well, to build on what we've already got, is fantastic news. And
of course, David Jones also crossed the bridge, as it were, earlier this week, wasn't it? As another former cabinet minister, Tory cabinet minister. Something's going on, Andrea. There's some momentum here.
I'm quite excited about the David Jones one, actually, because don't forget he was a Welsh MP for many years, and he was also the Secretary of State for Wales, as well as a Brexit minister. And I'd like to see him running the Welsh elections next year. That's what I would like to see, because we could really do well there.
I mean, I don't want to gloat at all, but it must have been a bad day at Kemi Badenoch Towers yesterday.
But, you know, I think they're still out of touch. They're in the bubble. I mean, I speak to existing Conservative MPs who I've known for years, and they just don't get it, Kevin. They still think that they're going to come back. They don't realise the strength of feeling. They might say that, but I mean, well, look at the advisor who's gone in the Lords, Rachel, what's she called, who lost a seat, who's an advisor to Badenoch. She said, so to speak, we've done enough grovelling, we're learning our lessons, and it's time to vote Conservative, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
But they just really haven't learnt the lessons. They don't realise that people's had enough of the two main parties, and they want to give, a new party a chance. And let's face it, Nigel's been fighting on these subjects for decades.
Yeah, do you know what the line was coming out of Tory Towers today? It was, well, yes, OK, Jake Berry was the Tory party chairman, but that is a position, it's not what it used to be. It's not much of a job being the Tory chairman, so it's not really a big beast. They are desperately straggling around, trying
next
to...
Next time their chairman comes on then, are you going to use that line?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, I hesitate to call you a big beast because it seems ungallant, but you are, and so.
Well, not since the diet injections, anyway.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Politically, you and Jake, these are big names. David Jones as well. Something is happening.
I don't know about a big beast, maybe a big mouth with myself.
Definitely that, and that's why I love you. Right, now you were talking about Nigel Farage today. He was out on the English Channel today, and I got my spies down on the south coast, and they were telling me that by about 8 o'clock this morning, 120 migrants had already arrived. I think it's going to be a pretty big day today. Probably people are talking about 600-700, maybe even more. So it's all going on the channel. Meanwhile, I've got to get your take on this. Starmer and Macron have just announced this one-in, one-out deal. Now, last week, 2,599 migrants came across the channel. By the way, they'll cost us £140 million over the next year. 2,599. Now, under this new one-in, one-out deal, it's 50 a week. That's 2,600 in a year. So last week, basically, a year's worth of the one-in, one-out migrant deals came across. The Daily Telegraph has worked out that this new deal will take, if, by the way, it ever happens, which I doubt, but if it does, it would take Keir Starmer 3 months to get rid of 1 day's worth of migrants. It's pathetic, isn't it?
But it comes back to, like you and I were saying last week, Kevin, that he doesn't really want to fix this.
Yes.
He doesn't believe it's a problem. And look, let's face it, as a lefty lawyer, he was defending lots of these cases, wasn't he, to keep people in the country. So he doesn't believe in it. This is actually just a showman. It's give the dog a bone to the British people to act as if they're doing something. But it's not going to work, is it, as you've just said with your figures? And we will not be able to tackle this unless we actually stop the pull. I mean, do you know, I was on Jeremy Vine's show this morning, Kevin, and John Sopel.
Yeah.
John Sopel.
Yes.
Was saying that if we were still, if it wasn't for Brexit, we'd be controlling this immigration and have better relationships with the EU. But they just don't get it, Kevin, do they? You know, if we're giving free hotels, free driving lessons, as we've seen on your show, people are going to flock here. So unless we stop the pull, come out of the ECHR so we can actually deport these people, we're never going to fix the problem.
Well, better still, don't let them get here. Turn them around in the middle of the channel, or if they do get here, just detain them, deport them. And at the very least, I keep saying this, if you won't do that, if you won't turn the boats round and you won't detain and deport, here's an idea: don't give them legal aid.
Yeah,
just say
absolutely.
if that might help. And as you say,
I completely agree with you.
And as you say, swap the 4-star hotels for tents. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, Clifford's trying to show me something. Yeah.
That's your son, right? Hi, Clifford.
Yeah. It's doing doggy yoga. It's
doggy yoga.
Yeah, and that's his list of doggy yoga. Come on then. Go on, tell them doggy yoga.
Let's have a look then.
Go on.
You can show.
Do you want to see his fringe? My sister's cut his fringe.
I do want to see his fringe. Yeah, I do. Wow, Clifford, that looks pretty cool.
My sister cut his fringe yesterday.
Your sister did that, yeah?
It's on Monday. It's on Monday.
It looks good, Clifford. It really does. It really does look good. But tell your sister, don't open a hairdressing salon anytime soon, okay?
Absolutely. Right, go out of the way now. Don't know. Come on, Clifford. You've had your 5 minutes in fame. Right, come on.
Right, nice. Okay, look.
Legal aid, completely agree. I mean, did you see the Axel Rudebarker?
Rudikabana, yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that. So this Southport inquiry, I don't think do you think it will encompass an investigation into two-tier justice? Do you think it will encompass, in other words, the indecent haste with which people were imprisoned after the riots? But will it also encompass an investigation into the Prime Minister colluding with the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to spread misinformation, to tell us, to basically tell us lies about the nature of the suspect, Axel Rudikabana? Do you think they'll investigate that? I doubt it.
I've got a bubble machine now, I'm afraid.
Okay.
That's the fun of doing stuff at home, isn't it? Right, enough now. Go on. Enough. Right, you're not having phones or anything. You're banned. Right. Right, so do you want something hot off the press?
Yes, I do. Yeah, considering I'm getting bubbles and fringes, so yes, can I have something off the press? Yeah.
The joy of being a single parent.
Yeah. Go on.
Right, so I got an email today, Kevin, from Hope Not Hate.
Right.
From one of their researchers asking, when I was defending Lucy Connolly being a political prisoner, do you seriously think that she's a political prisoner and we've got a two-tier justice system? Says Hope Not Hate, whose own leader of Hope Not Hate was making up lies. And it's just like, it's ludicrous. You know, it is a two-tier justice system. And back to your question, Kevin, they are not going to look into the two-tier justice. That what he's getting on legal aid, what is about £90,000 so far on legal aid. And, you know, we should not be giving money on legal aid on murderers like this.
No, I think a lot of people would, I don't know whether it would be this inquiry's job, but maybe as a nation, when somebody does something like what Axel Rudikabana did, you know, it does seem to me that at least we should debate the return of the death penalty. I mean, that guy, wouldn't it be better if we put him down? Don't you think?
Oh, completely. Look, I mean, I think paedophiles and child murderers do not deserve to live, and certainly don't, deserve a penny of taxpayers' money. I've said that for a long time.
Indeed. And let me ask you this. To go back to the migrant crisis and Starmer and Macron, and indeed these last, I think, quite strange 3 days of Macron's state visit. I mean, there are various...
What you've just said is ludicrous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have fated this guy, sucked up to this guy at a cost of around about £5 million. He hates Britain anyway, and all he's done is lecture us about what a mistake we made with Brexit, leaving the EU. I mean, how dare he come over here, feast on our generosity. That banquet the other night, they think might have cost £300,000. Feast on our generosity and then criticise us as a nation. I think his nuance was that we got conned or something, which actually is more insulting than just saying we made a mistake, because it makes us seem stupid that we got conned. I don't think we got conned, and I don't think we made a mistake. But what do you make of this bizarre trip that's cost us so much money, and it's ended up with this weird one-in, one-out deal? What do you make of all that?
It's just actually, I think it's been brought over. Starmer is sinking further down in the polls. They rather silly think that if they brought Macron over and come up with this miraculous deal, what's going to fix everything? Not, as we know, that it'll give buy some more time for Starmer, because let's face it, with what's been going in his own cabinet, going on in his own cabinet. We know Angela Rayner and others, where Streeting wants to be PM. So I think this is just a PR exercise to actually buy him more time.
Yeah, I'm going to bet you 10 quid that they don't get a single migrant back to France under this scheme, because the immigration lawyers will be all over this like a second skin. They will get their teeth into this, and the first question they're going to ask is, well, you know, my client, you're sending back 1 in 17 migrants. That's the ratio. Why have you picked on my client? What about the other 16? Yeah. A lawyer's going to have a field day with this. And by the way, here's another question, Andrea. Suppose on the off chance we do manage to get a migrant back to France, then what happens to them?
Well, they send one back to us, don't they?
Yeah, but what happened? Yeah, they do, which doesn't exactly solve the numerical aspect of the migrant crisis. So we don't reduce our number of migrants at all. But the British migrant, the one that we send to France, when they get to France, what happens to them?
They'll probably get on a boat and come back.
That's exactly what we said. That they'll do a U-turn, they'll go back to Calais, and they'll get the next dinghy back to Dover. And when
recycling migrants, isn't it? Yeah.
And when Starmer was asked at this recent press conference a couple of hours ago, when one journalist said, "Well, how will you choose the 1 in 17?" Yeah. You know, why would the other 16 not get the bad treatment, but one does? Do you know what his answer was? I'm not going to go into that here.
So he hasn't got a clue.
He hasn't got a clue.
Not a clue. Serious about it, are they? No.
They're not. It's not serious, is it?
Oh, did you see when he got off the plane that he's still having hoo-has with his wife?
Yeah. Well,
she wouldn't hold his hand, would she, or something?
Yeah, they said that her sister died or something, but I don't think that's necessarily the reason to not show your husband any affection. Anyway, look, Andrea, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Pleasure to talk to Clifford as well.
Apologies.
That's all right. I better let you go back to bubbling and.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Andrea. Good to talk to you. Take care now. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
That's Dame Andrea Jenkins, Reform UK's Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, and her son Clifford. When we come back, we're going to talk about Lord Hermer, Richard Hermer. He is the left-wing Attorney General. He's Starmer's old human rights lawyer mate from North London, and he's making a big power grab. Basically, he's putting himself in charge of all policy. All government policy, according to him, has to come across his desk so he can rule on whether or not it's lawful. The rule of law. I don't think we vote for the rule of law. We vote for the rule of a democratically elected government. We didn't vote for Hermer. We voted for Labour. For better or for worse, we kind of voted for Keir Starmer. I hate to say this, but he's the guy who has to make these decisions, not this two-bit left-wing lawyer Hermer. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
sickness bill is going to hit £100 billion by 2030 every year, of course. That's £100 billion every year just on sickness benefits alone. Yeah. And a lot of that being driven, as we've been saying, by this huge increase since the pandemic in these mild conditions. So something needs to be done. And with Reform riding high in the polls, we might have hoped that Reform and Nigel Farage would be saying things that would encourage us that they were going to grasp this nettle.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm just looking up, we've got all these TVs that you can see, and one of them is Sky News. It's got migration crisis. Will returns plans stop the boats? No, of course it won't. That's a ridiculous question to ask. Doesn't stand a chance of stopping the boats. Won't stop a single migrant. If you think about it, the other element of this, the mathematical element, if you like, the numerical element, is, you know, Starmer's sort of saying if these migrants realise there's a chance they could be returned to France, that's the deterrent we've been looking for, and they won't come anymore. Well, what they'll all calculate is 1 in 17. I'm pretty likely to be one of the lucky 16. So therefore, it's worth rolling the dice. So this mathematical element, that's not a deterrent. That's well worth giving it a shot, isn't it? 1 in 17. It's ridiculous. Will it stop the boats? Of course it won't. Doesn't stand a chance. They haven't even thought this through. I just think it's just more headline grabbing from our ludicrous Prime Minister, who is presiding over an increasingly ludicrous administration. And I think we should be worried, very worried indeed, about his mate, his little buddy, the Attorney General, Lord Richard Hermer. Now, Richard Hermer is a sort of left-wing human rights lawyer who, as soon as Starmer got in, almost as soon as he cancelled the Rwanda scheme, he made Richard Hermer a lord so that he could become Attorney General, full-time politician, and all that, which he now is. Now, this is the guy that negotiated away the Chagos Islands for no apparent reason apart from some kind of North London-y hatred of British colonialism or something like that. It's just ridiculous. So we've given away the very strategic Chagos Islands to China's best friend, Mauritius. So that's a courtesy of this fool, Richard Hermer. Now, Richard Hermer now back here in Britain apparently is bringing in a system, or he's taking steps to make sure that all government policy comes across his desk so that he can rule on whether or not it is lawful. There's even a snitch clause in his new guidance, which will force civil servants to report to him, the Attorney General, if they suspect that ministers might be about to act unlawfully. Thus, Starmer's beloved rule of law will take precedence over the rule of our democratically elected government. This isn't right. Let's talk to historian and broadcaster Rafe Heidel-Manku. Hi, Rafe.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
I think this is very sinister. So this guy, Hermer, I mean, we all have our suspicions about him. I think he's a sort of superannuated sixth form activist, you know, hates Britain, British colonialism, negotiated away the Chagos Islands for no real reason at all, except for some kind of Guardian reading, loathing of colonialism or imperialism or something. Anyway, he has now apparently brought in new guidance which will effectively mean that all government policy has to go across his desk, and then he decides whether or not it is lawful, which will make him the most powerful person in this country. Now, I was about to say I'm all for the rule of law. I'm not sure I am, actually, but let's give that phrase the benefit of the doubt for now. But rule of law, jolly, jolly good, jolly, jolly good. But that's not what we vote for when we vote a government in. We vote for the rule of our democratically elected government. This guy Hermer and his mate Keir Starmer agree that there is something more powerful than the democratically elected government in this country, and that is the rule of law. I don't think that's true. I don't think that is right. I don't think that's what we voted for. And this two-bit little lefty, he should not have the power to veto government policy, should he?
No, and that's precisely what he's got now. It's an effective veto over government policy. This isn't so much about the rule of law. This is about the rule of lawyers.
Yes.
This is the seizing of power from the democratically elected representatives of the people by lawyers. Make no mistake about that. Keir Starmer is not a politician. Keir Starmer is a prosecutor. He spent his entire adult life within the law. And then he promoted his best buddy, Lord Hermer. Now, the Attorney General, for your viewers and listeners, the role of the Attorney General is to give advice and guidance to the government about laws and things. It's a very senior role. And this was the first time in generations, I don't know, at least a century, that somebody was made Attorney General despite never having sat in Parliament. And this was completely unprecedented. So you're bringing into the role of Attorney General somebody who has no knowledge or interest or experience or clearly any sympathy with democracy. There's somebody who's come in completely from outside. And now here you've got Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Hermer and Starmer, Hermer, because he's acting more Teutonic all the time, it seems, essentially completing or carrying on what Tony Blair started. Tony Blair began this war on Parliament, taking power away from the people, taking the law lords, making a Supreme Court, creating quangos and other bodies that essentially took up the role that Parliament used to play. And Starmer and Hermer are merely carrying this on. And it's actually worrying Labour cabinet ministers. So now even Labour cabinet ministers like Mahmood and the Lord Chancellor and Pat McFadden and Nicholas Simons are all worried because he's essentially causing blockages to their own things that they want to get done because he insists on looking over everything. And what he's done is he's rewritten the guidance of Suella Braverman, who was Attorney General under the Conservative government, and she wanted to get rid of legal interference. She wanted to free the politicians to make law without being hampered and hindered by the overreach of lawyers. And Hermer has not only reversed that, but he's put it into superdrive. And this is because this man actively hates Britain. He hates the idea that of the British government having independence from international law. And he essentially wants to bring us into this sort of idea that that international law supersedes national law.
Yeah, and don't forget, recently he ruled that should Britain join America and Israel in the attacks on Iran, in fact get involved in the Middle Eastern dispute, the Middle Eastern conflict, he ruled that that would be unlawful. As you say, that actually isn't the rule of law. That's his decision, his interpretation. It's the rule of a lawyer, not the rule of law. That's the danger here. This is this two-bit little guy, with glasses, bald head and all that, assuming that he has the right to decide what is lawful and what isn't lawful. Well, you know, we can all decide that. I mean, OK, he's legally qualified and all that, but of course he could be wrong, couldn't he? Now, the important thing is that this would mean that the most powerful element of government in this country would not be the government we elected. It's Hermer. It's this lawyer. And the rule of law should not supersede the rule of the democratically elected government, should it?
This is fundamentally important. This is a direct attack on the great achievement of the Glorious Revolution, which was the sovereignty of Parliament. Parliament is supposed to be supreme, and Lord Hermer, I hate to give him the name of Lord, but Hermer wants to shackle Parliament. So, for example, Rishi Sunak disapplied parts of the European Convention on Human Rights when he wanted to push ahead with the Rwanda plan. Now, what Lord Hermer is saying is that you can't ever use Parliament to override international law. Excuse me, international law is not binding. There's no international police force that's going to come and knock on 10 Downing Street to say you violated international law. It's up to Britain to decide, it's up to Britain to decide how it applies the law. And he had to apologize, I think it was a month or two ago, when he called those people who want to leave the European Court of Human Rights. He said that these were the tactics of Nazi-era Germany. This is a sort of fanatical fundamentalist we're dealing with. He really is an odious person, and he's a very dangerous character. And this is at the same time, of course, he was the one who was approving the harsh sentences we saw going out to the Southport protesters. He signed off on Lucy Connolly's outrageously long sentence, whilst at the same time he declined to review unduly lenient sentences that were given to the rapist, a paedophile, and a terrorist. They got shorter sentences than he did. So we have to understand what we're dealing with. Yes, you mentioned the Chagos Islands. He was also advising the Caribbean states about how to get trillions of pounds of reparations, trillions of pounds, more than the entire GDP of China, from Britain for slavery and colonialism. I mean, this man actively loathes Britain, and he spent his entire career working against the British interest. People must remember also, this is a man who represented Gerry Adams, of the Sinn Féin, who has argued for Shamima Begum to return to the UK. He represented a Guantanamo Bay detainee and the mother of one of the murderous ISIS beetles. Now, the defense he put forward was, oh, well, as a barrister, we have the cab rank rule, which is the principle that you come along, you take the first person in the queue. Well, I'm sorry, he must be the unluckiest barrister in the world if that was his lineup of people who are all waiting. He clearly is taking a lot on cases that undermine Britain and that attack and denigrate Britain's legacy. And even his colleagues have actually said that, yes, he is an activist barrister, an activist lawyer who tries to achieve what he can through the courts. And now this is the man who's actually running official guidance to the government. It's outrageous.
Yeah, and let's not forget, he's a big mate of Keir Starmer, hence Starmer immediately ennobling him after he got elected so he could give him this key job. So this guy, Richard Hermer, is Keir Starmer's eyes and ears on earth. So he is acting, with Starmer's full approval. And as I say, the rule of law, it isn't an immutable stone-like principle that you can reach. The rule of law, in the end, has to always be one of interpretation. And what he's essentially saying is that his interpretation of law must be obeyed. He will be correct. Now, what do you think about this element of his new guidance, which will involve civil servants and indeed, lower pecking order politicians, if they suspect that the government or a cabinet minister or even the prime minister are acting unlawfully, they have to go to Hermer, and then Hermer will rule from on high. I mean, it strikes me that apart from all his other dubious character traits, his hatred of Britain, his utter stupidity, he's also got a kind of God complex. He wants to be all-powerful. He thinks he should be running the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's happening, I mean, we're already at a state where the civil service are, in effect, ruling the country. There's a reason why Tory and Labour alike are unable to actually stop the boats and stop the number of people claiming asylum here, and it's because the civil service runs the show. The world of Sir Humphrey is very much a reality of yes, Prime Minister, and this is just another way in which you're going to handcuff our leaders, because what's going to happen is you're going to have all of these minor civil servants who are going to find the slightest area in legislation or something, which is really of no concern, but they'll say, oh, well, that is questionable. That's going to delay the whole process of whether a bill goes through Parliament. And suddenly you're going to have so much work and burden being put onto legislation, as everything has to be finely tuned and gone through with a fine-tooth comb to see whether it passes Helmer's smell test. And this has already happened now with various laws after Hillsborough and so forth, where sources in the government have said Helmer has added months of work of zero value to what we're doing.
Yes.
It's delaying everything completely. And there's another thing about the rule of law. You know, Britain has always been the world's premier country for standing up for the rule of law. Now, the Italians, the Spaniards, even the Danes have violated international law many times to get what they want to do. They've been hauled before the European Court of Human Rights, and they've said, what are you going to do about it? For some reason, we in Britain seem to be the only country that is so beholden to this idea of the rule of law. Now, 30, 40, 50 years ago, the international rule of law worked very effectively, and we would have abided by it because it was an honest, decent, and righteous law. But now we've seen the great usurpation of power by the European Court, by the UN, by the European Union. These are no longer good faith, honest brokers and honest purveyors of sound law. So you get to a point where, yes, we must abide by the rule of law when the law is actually good. But we're in an era of bad law, and that's where Parliament must stand up and say these laws need to be struck down, and Herman's trying to stop that.
And neither Herman nor Starmer could ever understand what I want to say, and I think most people would agree with me. The rule of law isn't the be-all and end-all of everything. For them it is, and there's your problem. Rafe, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Rafe Heidel-Manku there, historian and broadcaster. He's a problem, isn't he, this Hermer guy? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, taking your calls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, I'm going to be talking to Jewish journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti. Really sinister, shocking story that Iran had this plot, and they were trying to kill 15 British Jews here in Britain. A very, very shocking plot. We'll talk to Jonathan about that after the next break. But until then, let's take a call, shall we? Let's talk to Peter from Croydon. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah, Just a bit of Ralph Mancur. He's brilliant, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He's so articulate. Nigel Farage should offer me a job somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, he should.
On Starmer. Yeah, all this nonsense. I mean, he couldn't put any meat on the bones, could he? And that's a big clue.
Did you see it, Peter? Did you see that press conference? I mean, it's like I keep saying. You know, somebody did ask him, "Well, how are you going to choose this 1 in 17? How does that work?" And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to get into that now." Well, it's because he doesn't know. There's so many other questions as well, though, Peter. You know, what happens to them when they get back to France? How do you think that immigration lawyers aren't going to stop all of these alleged deportations? You know, it's a mess. And also, you know, 50 a week. 2,600 came across last week.
He's a joke. He's a joke, Kevin. You know, my take on it is that he wants to follow in the footsteps of his mate Tony Blair. Tony Blair, he wanted to be Queen of Europe, didn't he? But obviously, because of Brexit, you know, he couldn't, and he's still crying about it now.
Well, that was kind of after his time. I thought he wanted to be the commissioner or something, didn't he?
Exactly, and that's what Starmer wants to do, doesn't he? Yeah. That's why he's sucking up to Europe.
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck with that. I think you know, people like Macron, the Europeans, they know, they know that basically Keir Starmer is a very poor politician. He's a low-quality politician. Macron came over here and walked all over him. I mean, this deal with the French, I mean, it's not going to happen, is it, for a kick-off?
No. I mean, Starmer might as well bend down in front of him, you know. And honestly,
I think Peter, he's made with this announcement today, Starmer has made yet another massive rod for his own back. Just like a year ago, last July, when he said, "Smash the gangs, border security command." Yeah, in effect, what he did there, because he kept saying it, didn't he? Smash the gangs, smash the gangs. He made a huge rod for his own back because, you know, as the months went on and right up until today, we're going, yeah, but you haven't smashed any gangs. You haven't found any gangs. So that scheme never even got off the ground. So that was ridiculous. And I think he's made a rod for his own back today because my hunch is that they won't ever get a single migrant back to France.
Of course they won't. No, of course he won't. He's, like I say, he's just looking at the bigger picture, and he.
But that's not going to work out for him because everybody in Europe knows that he's a half-wit, that he's a useless politician.
Well, exactly.
So good luck with that. I mean, you know, I wish they'd give him a job now and he could bugger off and we could get somebody who was a bit better at being Prime Minister because he is a catastrophe, By the way, Peter, just a little bit of FYI information for you. We understand that hundreds and hundreds of migrants came across the channel today. Another small boat invasion. So that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, they're just making up for the last few days.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. What we hear is that the French went gangbusters with their patrols and the beaches to stop the migrants while Macron was here on his state visit to spare his blushes and all that, but they didn't quite make it because Macron is still here, and today the brown stuff really hit the fan. So we'll find out tomorrow, but we're hearing big numbers. Peter, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for your call. Peter in Croydon there. Let's go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this very disturbing plot to kill or kidnap 15 Jewish people here in Britain. That next, stay tuned.
I do think those of us who care passionately and deeply about this country, we've got one last big job in us, one last duty, and that's to get behind reform and try and improve Britain.
And you can feel the change, and you can feel, I mean, every day we talk to people, as you know, on this show, who call in with their stories and their experiences, and a lot of people now use the word, it's unfair to me. They say it's fairness that they're bothered about, because under Labour, you know, I don't think anybody quite can believe how bad they are. I mean, we all thought they'd have policies that we might not agree with, but the incompetence, the sheer incompetence of what's happening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, Iran has tried to kill or kidnap 15 people in Britain, including prominent Jews. This has been revealed by Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee, and they have warned of the threat of physical attacks by Iran on people living in the UK, that this threat has now significantly increased and is comparable with the safety standards in Russia, in other words, incredibly low. It's the Jewish angle that worries me. Let's talk to Jonathan Sacerdoti, a Jewish journalist and broadcaster. Welcome, Jonathan.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. This is really sinister and really worrying, isn't it?
Well, it is, and you say that it's the Jewish angle that bothers you, which is, as a Jewish person, you know, obviously I'm pleased to hear that, but actually I think we should all be worried, because this isn't just a threat to British Jews, it's a threat to all of us. And last year, when we were told that there had been, I think, 20 plots to kidnap and kill on British soil, we were told that while they specifically aimed at Iranian dissidents and Jewish people, actually they were aware that it could be repurposed against all Brits. So I do think this is a very real threat to all of us here, and perhaps this is the wake-up call a bit too late that the government and the authorities ought to heed. Perhaps they ought to be toughening up against this very serious threat. And I'll just add one last thing, which is that when we talk about the Iranian threat, I think it's more fair for us to say the threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran, because the country of Iran is, of course, effectively occupied and held hostage by the Islamic Republic against their will. It's a dictatorship that abuses the people of Iran as much as it wants to abuse, kill, kidnap, or whatever British people, Jewish people, and dissidents here. So I think that this is all coming together, and perhaps raising people's awareness of exactly what that regime is and exactly what kind of threat they pose to all of us, even over here in Britain.
The committee, this committee I'm talking about, urged the government to make clear to Tehran, in the light of these attacks, that such attempts would, and I quote, constitute an attack on the UK and would receive the appropriate response. Do you have confidence that our government would in any way respond to these attacks?
Well, personally, not much. I mean, look at the facts. Israel actually, in close cooperation with the US, did strike in Iran to try and deal with the Islamic Republic's ballistic missiles and its nuclear ambitions, its nuclear weapons program. And Britain kind of did a bit of hand-wringing about that, though less than it has about Israel fighting the other Iranian proxies that have been slaughtering and kidnapping its people. But, you know, in May, counter-terrorism police arrested 5 Iranians who'd allegedly been plotting an attack on the Israeli embassy here in Britain. They were later released. Britain's Jewish community was told to be on heightened alert amid fears that there would be terrorist revenge attacks on them. In March of last year, an Iranian-British journalist was stabbed 4 times outside his Wimbledon home. Then we had that British soldier, Daniel Khalif, who was a former British soldier jailed for more than 14 years for spying for Iran. So all of these do seem actually to have been manifestations of that threat, and yet we're told that there will be a very serious response to what would be considered a declaration of war. Well, if this is our response to that kind of declaration of war, God help us.
Exactly right. Can I sort of move on to something that happened to me yesterday? I just sort of found it really disturbing. I was sitting in a restaurant in Primrose Hill, and this guy just walked. It was sort of a nice day, we were outside table. This guy walked past, middle-aged, normal-looking bloke. And he's got a T-shirt on Well, across there it goes F Israel. And I just thought, what the hell is going on here? Why, you know, that attitude? Why are people doing that in a place like Primrose Hill?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Unfortunately, I think more and more of us are experiencing this kind of unbridled, unveiled hatred towards Israel and effectively, let's face it, towards Jewish people. Though I know people will say, oh, not all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic and against Jews, but it isn't all, but a lot of it is. And I'll say that it perhaps gives some people, I don't know about that man, the opportunity to express this maybe internalized hatred of Jews in a way that they think's acceptable. The reason, let's be frank, that so many people casually seem able to say, wear, display those sorts of signs of hatred towards Israel is, I think, at the moment, because it's engaged in this war of survival, and I don't think that's an exaggeration to say that, against these forces that have been not just trying, but succeeding in killing Israelis, mostly because it's the Jewish state. So as I said, Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, has been behind those proxy armies. I mean, the Houthis in Yemen are literally still firing rockets and missiles at Israel. They're still being sent into shelters today, yesterday, by those rockets, which is entirely orchestrated by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And in return for Israel standing up robustly against that kind of Islamic fanaticism, jihadism that is trying to kill them, people here are saying F Israel or death to the IDF or any of those sorts of things, when in actual fact we should be learning from the state of Israel and its robust response to that kind of jihadism. When we see this report and we hear that we have a manifestation of it here and we have this sort of lame response, it's shocking. In fact, we have something much worse. We have this two-tier policing where Iranian dissidents who go out on the street here and protest hold up signs that say things like Hamas is a terrorist organization, like Nihat Ghourbani, my friend, the Iranian living here. They get arrested multiple times for those things, whereas the people carrying out these terror-supporting marches and protests don't seem to. And let me just tell you one other thing, which is actually interesting, that may have gone under the radar for a lot of people. There's an Afghan-Danish man who's been arrested this week in Germany for spying on Jewish and Israeli targets in Berlin on behalf of Iran's Quds Force. So this was a joint effort from German, Danish, Swiss, Turkish and Israeli intelligence services, and they tracked his activities. They found him photographing Jewish institutions, a kosher supermarket, the office of Germany's top Jewish leader, and he delivered material to his handlers in Tehran in June 2025 this year, and then he went back to Denmark using forged documents. So these things are very real. It's not paranoia. It's something that's going on under our noses, and yes, sometimes we're catching them, and some intelligence operations around Europe, including, of course, with collaboration and cooperation with Israel's intelligence, are catching them. But it's about time this came out in the open and the rest of us acknowledged that this is a very, very real threat. And a threat towards British Jews is a threat towards Britain, full stop.
Absolutely right. I had Gideon Falter on a couple of nights ago from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, and I'd be interested to get your take on this as well. This is about the proscribing of Palestine Action, you know, and now, of course, a proscribed terrorist group. Following their proscription, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, the old Pink Floyd croc rocker, the old boy, he's about 89 or something, I think he's 81, he made a video saying that he fully supported Palestine Action because they're a marvellous group and this is the right thing to do, and so on, and stop the genocide and so on and so forth. Now, nothing has happened to him. Now, a Campaign for Anti-Semitism, to their credit, they say, well, look, we're monitoring this. If the police don't do anything, we will bring a private prosecution. But here we are now. I think it was July the 5th he put this out. What is this? So it's 5 days on. Is it blatantly? I mean, he did it on purpose, obviously. He made a video, put it on X, Twitter. It's had about 500,000 views. Nothing's happened to him. Nobody's been around to talk to him. Nobody's arrested him. What is the point of prescribing Palestine Action if you're going to let a guy immediately, you know, break the law like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that there's debate over whether that group in particular should or shouldn't be prescribed as a terrorist group.
Yeah, but they are. The point is they
absolutely.
are. Yeah.
And I personally fall on the side of yes, of course they should. You know, they attacked openly an air base here, one of our most important air bases, vandalised, damaged, therefore putting in jeopardy the people that would go in those aircraft that they just,
30 million quid's worth of damage, by the way.
Exactly. So I do think that a lot of what they did falls certainly into my definition. I don't know if it coordinates with the legal one, which is that, trying to instill terror in other people because of your own political beliefs, trying to bully them through violence and terror and damage. So I would say, yes, if you support a group that is prescribed, my understanding of the law is that you should be arrested.
Not that you and I would do this, but we can't go out on the streets and go, up Hezbollah, isn't Hamas fantastic, or wear a T-shirt or something to that effect. That's against the law. It's not really about, this discussion is not necessarily about whether or not Palestine action deserve to be prescribed. They are.
I hear you.
Roger Waters blatantly disobeyed that new law. Why hasn't anybody arrested him?
I agree with you. It's a very good question. I'm not personally afraid of Roger Waters' potential to carry out a terror attack on me, but as you say, supporting a terrorist group is considered to be illegal against the law once a group has been prescribed. And we have far worse as well in this country. I mean, we have literal terrorists or people who have, come here and sought refugee status, who are actually tightly or closely affiliated with terrorist groups prescribed in this country, living here. We have the controversy of charities here effectively raising money using our charity system and then funneling that money back towards terrorist organisations. I mean, we have so many problems like this that just aren't being taken seriously. They're taking, I think, the British public for fools when they think that we don't know about it.
I agree, Jonathan. I've got to go. It's the news. Good to talk to you. Take care. Talk soon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, welcome back. Now, in a little while, we're going to be taking your calls. 03444991000. That's in about 20-25 minutes. You know what we're talking about. I think we mainly want to talk about the one-in, one-out deal, don't we? What's it all about? Yeah, you put your migrant in, you put your migrant out, one in, one out, you shake it all about. That's about the size of it. Might as well put it to music, have a bit of fun, because it's not going to work. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, it was us. So what was going to say 1 in 17. 1 in 17 migrants will be sent back. What's that all about for a kick-off? So somebody at this press conference goes, well, how are you going to choose who's the unlucky 1 in 17? Oh, I'm not going to get into that now, because he doesn't know. Well, what happens when they get back to France? They're going to do a U-turn, head back to Calais, get on a dinghy to Dover. You know, and it's not a deterrent, is it? Because if you think, will I be the unlucky 1 in 17? Well, it's unlikely, isn't it? So it's worth rolling the dice. If you said 15 in 17 are going to go back, or even, shall we say, 10, or even like 8 or 9 in 17, they would go, oh, it's a fair chance I could be one of them. So, oh, maybe I won't go across. But 1 in 7, that's not going to stop them. Plus, it will take them 3 months to return to France. How many migrants you usually come across in one day? 50 every week, 2,600 in a year. How many migrants came across the channel last week? Oh, I know, 2,599. So that's last week. So that's basically 2,600. Starmer's brilliant, groundbreaking plan is to send back 2,600 in a year. 2,600 came across last week. And also, as I keep saying, 1 in, 1 out. How does that reduce the number of our migrants? That's just maintaining the status quo. That's just playing swap the foreigner. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. And what the hell? Since it's the beginning of the Southport inquiry, that guy Axel Rudakabana, should we have put him to death? People like that kind of crime. I know it's an old, chestnut, bring back the death penalty, but when you know, the stories of those kids, the little kid being stabbed in the back, crawling out, desperately getting out of that dance hall, and he dragged her back in and carried on stabbing her. She survived incredibly. These stories, what happened in that dance floor. I'm not an evangelist for the death penalty, but I read these stories, what that guy did to little kids in that dance hall. And you think, are we just being too liberal and lily-livered and modern? Like, oh, the death penalty's inhuman. What about it, yeah? It's for someone like him. Really? Really? Let me know. Death penalty for Axel Rudakabana. Let's bring it in now and tell him, you're going to swing retrospectively. I'd like to see his face then, wouldn't you? Let me know what you think about it. Seriously. 0344449911000. Before we get to your calls, it's time to talk Meghan. Kinsey Schofield's away this week. We talked to Lady C on Monday. Now, this next guest... well, we've got form, the two of us. We tried in this very studio, we tried Meghan's jam and her cookies and her dried flowers and things like that. So he's an old stager with Meghan's gastronomical produce, but he's also a psychologist and an expert on narcissism, which somehow seems rather relevant. And I want to talk about Meghan's bizarre, her frantic, hectic, manic behaviour over the last couple of months. I wonder what's going on. So, a warm welcome back to the show to psychologist and narcissism expert Richard Grannon. Hi, Richard.
Hello, Seth. Thank you for having me back on.
Well, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Is he coming on screen? Is he there? Have we got a decent... Oh, there you are. There you are. Hello. Hello. No, is this a bit of... We've been having technical difficulties here at Talk Towers the last couple of days. Good to see you, Richard. I want to ask you, Meghan has been very manic the last couple of months, I mean, she's obviously working on her as ever food store and all that, and she's just released Chateau Megan rosé wine and so on and so forth. But she's, you know, these blizzard of posts on Instagram, you know, more and more sort of semi pictures of bits of her kid. You know, they have this obsession. You can't see their face, but they'll show you just a little bit in the red hair. And doing more and more appearances on podcasts. Just as I say, a blizzard of activity. And the backdrop to this is her business, As Ever, which is selling food, or seems to run out of food mostly. And I'm just wondering whether this kind of manic behaviour is somehow or other covering up for a certain failure on the business front.
Yes, it does seem to be that. The narcissistic personality disorder, and I'm not saying that she does have that, but if she did, it's fundamentally a disorder of compensation, and it's fundamentally a disorder of a deep-seated sense of unworthiness. And so all of the grandiosity and all of the effort and all of the showcasing of her abilities would be there to cover up that sense of unworthiness. If she's experienced narcissistic injury recently, she would feel driven to do more to compensate for that feeling of inadequacy and narcissistic depletion. So that could be one explanation for what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, not fair to diagnose her from, 5,000-6,000 miles away, and she's not on your couch or anything like that. But she does seem, you know, to my amateur eyes, to rather love herself.
Well, everything is cast into this very grandiose and delusional light. So, okay, so we're gonna be fair, and we're gonna say we can't say she has a personality disorder. She doesn't have NPD, but we can say her behavior narcissistic just by sticking to the mainstream definitions of narcissism. It's highly narcissistic behavior. It's very grandiose. It's very delusional, and it's very performative. It's very much about what can I convince people is true of me. She's very image focused, and that's undeniable. That's clearly the case. And as you rightly say, at the moment, it does have this tinge of desperation about it.
Yeah, I mean, would someone in her position, look, my this is just speculation, of course, I don't know the facts, but my impression is that As Ever isn't doing as well as she is trying to make out. And I get this feeling that with each new failure, she, you know, posts another picture on Instagram, does another podcast interview, says something to give the impression that it's like a supersonic success. You know, like when she released the wine on July the 1st, which would have been Diana's 64th birthday. That didn't go down well over here, I'll tell you, among the royal family. But she released that wine, and then fairly soon after, she put this post on Instagram saying, "Oh my, it's astonishing what you've done. I'm so grateful. We've sold out already. It's incredible, it's incredible." And I'm just wondering whether or not that is a huge exaggeration to cover up the fact that it probably isn't doing that well, her online shop.
No, I think the last time we spoke, I did say that the way she's acting is a little bit out of date. She wants to be a social media influencer of the type that was coming into popularity 10 years ago in 2015, 2016. People are burnt out with this. They see through it. Everybody's very social media savvy now, branding your own wine, branding your cookbooks. Her podcast didn't work. You know, she fundamentally, she really doesn't have that much to offer. And people know that. They feel it. And so they won't buy into it because they have so much choice online now. All of that would generate tremendous narcissistic injury. And I wonder what kind of pressures it creates within the relationship. If she's the main breadwinner, why did she marry Harry? What's he for if he's not the billionaire royal that she was hoping for? Why is she having to scrabble around and hustle and do these rather embarrassing product launches that never seem to quite take? Yeah. So yes, it must be very, very hard.
Yeah, I keep saying that the business model of As Ever seems very, very strange. That it's a strange business model to never have anything available. So she puts a product up for sale. Oh, the rosé's available. And about 10 minutes later, they go, we've sold out. She sells out of everything double quick, which would indicate she doesn't get enough product. She likes to say, or likes to give the impression that the sales are, off the scale, huge. But I just think she never has enough product, and I think she likes to pretend that these products are so popular that they just fly off the shelves. I just don't think she ever has enough. So it's a strange business model. Nothing is ever available. But you mentioned about the relationship between her and Harry. And as they might say in America, I'll probably get in trouble here for being sexist or something, but she does kind of wear the pants, doesn't she?
She's absolutely dictated the relationship from day one, and that's I don't lay the blame for the disaster that's occurred within the royal family unit solely at her feet. It's Harry's latent narcissism that drew him into this, and a little bit of weakness. And I don't know what his IQ is. I don't know how smart he is. I don't know how worldly and savvy he is. But absolutely, since we can't deny the facts. Once he got into that relationship with her, he started to isolate from his family. He changed his language. He changed his dress sense. He absorbed her narrative completely. He's taken on her narrative, which means she's leading the relationship. So yeah, absolutely, she's wearing the pants. All this psychotherapy babble he uses now and social justice language he uses, that's Californian. She's the Californian, not him.
Yeah, he speaks like her now. He speaks like, I used to live in California. I know that language very well, and I also know that none of it makes any sense. It's pure gobbledygook. But yes, he speaks like that. But you mentioned then, Richard, that you think he's a narcissist as well?
I went back and looked at the interview on Oprah, and I think he's more of that kind of what we would call a fragile or vulnerable or a weak style of narcissist. She's more classically grandiose and bullying and tough, and he's a little bit more fragile, I think. So he would be quite insecure, probably riddled with feelings of shame and guilt, which I don't think she suffers from. I think she's quite thick-faced, hard-faced. She'll go for it and not really consider the consequences. I think that he does, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have quite. I can't say he has a personality disorder, but the behavioral patterns are highly narcissistic, highly attention-seeking, histrionic, you could say. Yeah. He created so much unnecessary drama, and their behavior is so inappropriate and boundary breaking, right the way down to naming their child Lizabeth. It's such poor taste. Everything is done in such poor taste.
It is, isn't it? It is bad taste. So you asked about his IQ. I don't think it quite gets into double figures, but it's near enough. It's all about 8 or 9, something like that. But seriously, the Queen, via her cousin, revealed that what she felt about this relationship. First of all, she feared that Meghan didn't love Harry. She was engineering this relationship for obviously her own purposes. And what those two ladies, Lady Elizabeth Anson and the Queen, concluded was that poor dear sweet Harry was neither bright nor strong, but Meghan is both. And that's the dynamic of that relationship. Yes. Would you concur with that?
I give credit where credit's due. I have never said that Meghan is a stupid person. I don't think she's thick, and she's not lacking in face and brass neckedness and backbone. She'll go for it, and she has. In many ways, she's succeeded. She's kind of managed to take control of him, remove him from his family, and now carries him around like some token sock puppet.
Yeah, but that would fit into the dynamic of this relationship, that she, as the Queen concluded, is bright. I don't think she's that bright. I think she's a lot brighter than Harry. But the Queen thought that she was bright and strong, and Harry was neither, was not bright and was not strong, was weak. That seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, it does, and it fits in. It fits in with that narcissistic relationship, if indeed there is that problem there, where you have one person who's the grandiose narcissist, the classic narcissist, goes on and a little bit of supply, a little bit of sympathy, but God bless him, he misjudges everything. He seems to be incapable of making the right move at any point, even when he's trying to get back into the good graces of the British public. He says the wrong thing each and every time. Poor lad.
Yeah, he really does. Just before, we got a terrible line here, Richard, but we're just about making it through. But I do want to get you on that interview he gave, what was it now, a couple of months ago. It was after he failed in his latest legal bid to get armed police protection when he visits Britain. He wasted a lot of money and a lot of time pursuing that no-hoper case. And after he was told, no, you are not going to be treated like a frontline royal, because frontline royals they do their duty here. You're living in California, so you're not going to get what you want. And he was like a kid who didn't get what he wanted, throwing his toys out of the pram. And he gave that interview, and it petulant doesn't even begin to describe it. And he was spewing these bizarre conspiracy theories about his dad, the king, getting together with shadowy figures in the Home Office who wanted him dead, and so on and so forth. It was kind of this explosion of fury infused with a kind of weird conspiracy theory and mania. What do you think was going on in that interview? Was he just like furious that he didn't get his own way?
It did come across like that. I should apologise for the line. I'm currently in Dubai and it's not a great signal. It was petulant. I think you're 100% right. It was also ill-informed. He was acting as though he wasn't going to receive any protection at all, and that wasn't the case. Obviously, they're going to protect him at all times when he's inside the country, and he's going to be treated to a special level of protection. It's just not the same level that would be given to a working royal. And so what he was fighting for was symbolic. But he was acting as though he was being left open to assassins. No, he wasn't. At no point was he being left open to assassins. And you're right, the justification for that was this really strange, again, boundary-breaking, inappropriate. It's almost like he doesn't know he's talking in public, and that these things are forever. They last online forever. But basically suggesting his father was involved in a conspiracy against him in the way he'd been involved in a conspiracy against his mother. Even if you believe that, you shouldn't, in his position, say things like that publicly. Very unwise, and it generates a huge amount.
Well, Richard, I think the line is just about gone there, but we got through that. So listen, thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for coming over from Dubai, and we'll talk again soon. That's Richard Grannon making some very interesting points about Harry and Meghan. We're basically putting both of them on the psychologists. I shouldn't say psychiatrists, because Richard is a psychologist, but for the purpose of this handy phrase, putting them on the psychologist couch. It's psychiatrists that have couches, isn't it? Not psychologists. So he is a psychologist, so putting him through the psychological mill, I think it's really interesting. I mean, the Queen got close to it when she was talking about basically Harry being thick and weak and her being bright and strong. And that's the dynamic of that relationship. Let me know what you think about what Richard was saying. If you want to talk about that, 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. When we come back, we've got lots of phone calls. We've got some, I think we've got some WhatsApp voice notes, and also I'll read some of your messages. So we've got a fair while to go. So the floor is yours. Get on the phone and let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. 0344 499 1000. Back in a mo.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's kick off. We're going to go to the phones in just a second. Let's kick off with a voice note, shall we? This is Judith on the Migrants.
Evening, Kev. I just don't understand this thing about if a migrant has a family here, they can stay. I mean, oh, God, make it make sense. We have family in Israel, in Italy, in Australia, in America. We can't just pitch up and stay because we've got family there. I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for any sense in this ridiculous one-in, one-out deal, you're not going to find it, Judith. But this is the idea is that we have an illegal migrant, somebody who's broken into our country illegally. We send them back to France in return for some kind of migrant there who's got some kind of claim to be able to live in Britain, as you say, Judith, family, relatives, something like that. I mean, you know, okay. I mean, I don't know why that gives them the right to be here. I agree with that, but that's the deal. I mean, quite why we swap an illegal with a legal, I don't really know. But I don't really know a lot about this deal. I don't think Starmer or Macron know a lot about it. It's just headline hunting. It cannot work. It's a joke. It's a joke. Let's go to the phones and let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. How you doing, Herbie?
Don't ask, Kevin. Don't ask. Don't ask on a day like today, man. What's the matter with you? God, dear, oh dear. Talk about make my blood boil. Listen, Kevin.
Yes.
If the migrant coming back is legal, what's stopping him applying to come here legally in the first place anyway? What difference is it going to make?
Exactly. And I've got so many questions about this deal. I mean, if you've been listening to the show, you know what they are. My first question is, how do they choose the one migrant in 17? What's the criterion? How do they choose? Now, he was asked that, old Starmer, in the press conference, and he said, I'm not getting into that now. In other words, he doesn't know. Exactly. And my other question is okay, on the off chance we ever do get a migrant back to France under this new deal, what happens to them then? What happens when they get back to France? I mean, you can't lock them up. They'll probably just turn around and go back to Calais and get in the first dinghy to Dover, won't they?
Well, of course you will. Get another free house or a free hotel, maybe a better one,
exactly.
maybe a 5-star hotel.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
when he turns up, he'll probably go, can I get a better hotel than the last one? I didn't like the room service at the last hotel.
Exactly. But Kevin, the other thing is that our pipsqueak Macron saying that we made a mistake. No, we didn't make a mistake in leaving. We came out of an unelected, undemocratic organisation called the EU, which did us no favours other than take our money and keep wanting more and more and more and give us nothing in return but grief. And we're still getting grief by paying this man money for doing nothing, yet again.
Exactly right.
Falling for the free card trick.
Yeah, and my other point about this, as I say, if you've been listening to the show, you'll know what my points are, my quibbles are with this alleged groundbreaking deal. That once our immigration lawyers get their claws into this, the chances of us actually ever managing to deport a single migrant to France, back to France, are extremely slim. They'll tie the legal system up in knots over this. I mean, you know, if you were the lawyer, because all these migrants will have lawyers, if you're the lawyer for the one migrant in 17 who got chosen, you're just going to go, why is it my client? Why my client? What about the rest of them?
Exactly. Do you know what I should do, Kevin? What I will do, I will send all those lawyers into France, let them stay there, and make them immigrants. Keep them out. We don't need them because dragging the country down on its knees. And they do us no favours other than take a lot of money and make an escape for themselves to make a life of luxury while we suffer time after time
Well,
after time.
they're making a lot of money out of us taxpayers because all these migrants get legal aid, and the immigration lawyers are having a field day. It's madness, Herbie. This is absolute madness, and this one-in, one-out deal is the new smash the gangs. It's a headline-hunting load of old crap.
Yeah, well, let's wait and see what happens in the next 3 months, Kevin.
Well, I'll tell you, Herbie, I bet Andrea Jenkins earlier in the show, I bet her 10 quid that we never get a single migrant to France under this scheme.
No, of course we won't. We won't get anything. Kevin, the country is now, I think, on the footing of complete despair. And I said to you last night, we are heading for disaster because I think people have had enough. They can see what a joke this man is, and what a mistake we've made by allowing him to come in and rule the country. He's doing everything wrong. He's making our life a misery, and we're not going to gain anything while he's in power. We've got to get rid of him somehow in the Labour Party before the country is completely ruined.
I'd share your panic. I mean, yeah, I think we really. I wish we could. I can't see how we can. But I'll tell you what I think about this guy Starmer and his, cabinet crew. I don't like their politics, obviously. But my real fear about this lot, it's not political. It's competence. They're totally incompetent.
Oh, totally, Kevin. He hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a hope. Look, the whole cabinet does not live in the real world. They live in fantasy land. They're getting a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing. The mistakes they're making, they don't pay for them. We do. It comes out of our pocket, not theirs. Yeah. And I'm sick to death. I told you before, Kevin, my ruling is when I make a mistake, I pay. When the banks make a mistake, I pay. When the government makes a mistake, I pay. When do I stop paying for their bloody mistakes?
We're the ones who take it in, aren't we? All the time. We take it right in our guts. It's really not right. I'm with you, Herbie. I'm getting really frightened about this government. They're so useless. They are so useless. And this deal today, it's almost comedy. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry. Herbie, always a pleasure to talk to you, mate. Call me again soon. I know you will. Herbie in Harrow there. The excellent Herbie in Harrow, a regular caller, obviously. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your WhatsApp voice notes, and I'll read some messages out. Just stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good little text here from Ian. Should be on Fleet Street writing headlines. With Andrea Jenkins and Jake Berry, are Reform hoping to create a new ice cream? Jen and Berry. It's not bad, is it? What else we got? Yeah, this is Stuart Brown. He says, Macron coming over here and telling us we made a mistake and we're conned will go down just as well as Obama coming over and telling us if we voted for Brexit, we would go to the back of the queue. Yeah, there's a parallel there. You know, these foreign leaders coming over and telling us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and what we ought to do. You know, shove it. Go back and deal with your own countries, particularly you, Macron, because your country's falling apart at the seams. It's got an even worse economy than Britain, and everybody hates you there even more than we hate Starmer. So, you know, don't you come over here telling us what we've done wrong and what we've done right, because you don't know your backside from your elbow, do you, little man? Right, here's another one. This is from Elizabeth. So now we know that Starmer is hopeless at maths and he's gaslighting the British public into believing otherwise. We don't believe it, though, do we? He's hopeless at maths, he's hopeless at bloody everything, isn't he? Right, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Craig in Oxford. Hello, Craig.
Evening, Kevin.
What would you like to say, mate?
I feel like I've just woken up from 500 years in cryo sleep and I'm living through idiocracy. I'm convinced Starmer's going to come out tomorrow and announce the UK government's now going to be sponsored by Brondo, or more likely kombucha, knowing those left-wing idiots. What's becoming more and more obvious is clearly the Labour government are thicker than they seem to think we are. You know, I'm convinced he's being medicated or something, because no one can slur his words that much or make that many stupid decisions. I mean, when Macron came over, what did he say? That we'll do 10 in, 1 out. No, I've got a counter for you. 17. Where do you come with 17?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's very, very weird. I think it's something to do with that. Well, no, actually, I don't know what it's to do with. But you know, 1 in 17 means that the immigration lawyers will go, why is it my client? Then their client won't go back to France. So I just think that all the immigration lawyers will stop any of this happening. And even if it does get off the ground, even if we do start to send 50 migrants back a week, so what? I mean, I was saying earlier, if you were listening, last week, 2,599 migrants came across the channel illegally. So, for the sake of argument, 2,600. Multiply 50, the number of migrants that he wants to take back or send back to France in a week, by 52, the number of weeks in a year, and guess what you get? You get 2,600. That's the number of migrants that came across last week. He wants to send 2,600 back in an entire year. Meanwhile, this year, almost certainly more than 50,000 migrants will come across in small boats and dinghies from France to Britain. 50,000. And he wants to send back 2,000. He won't be able to do this, but even if he did succeed, 2,600. I don't get it. What's the point of that?
I mean, I'm sorry, Kevin, but unfortunately you're missing the point here, because he's just gaslighting the nation. Because
yeah, you're right. I think that's what it is.
Because everyone he sends back, we're getting another one in return. So we're not getting rid of any. All he's doing is justifying being able to bring more in. Because if they bring in 50,000, that means that they can send back, 3,000 or something. Yeah. But for those 3,000 we send back, we take 3,000 in exchange. Yeah. He's just gaslighting the nation.
2,600. That's it. He is gaslighting. You're right. The more I think about it, this is just a sort of conjurer's trick, isn't it? An illusionist's trick. Just to say we've got this deal. But it doesn't bear any scrutiny whatsoever. As I said earlier, lots of questions weren't asked at that press conference, typical of the political lobby. They tend to miss the point all the time. But somebody did say, how will you choose this one migrant in 17? What will be the criterion or the criteria for choosing that? And he said, oh, I'm not going to get into that now. It's because he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
He's void of ideas, like most of the Labour Party, and unfortunately, like a lot of politicians, are void of ideas.
Yeah.
I'd rather than wake up in idiocracy, I'd rather wake up in the country run by engineers and, you know, doctors, problem solvers, people that can identify issues and solutions, not these idiots that know when to stand up and grunt on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we got a problem with this government, and today it was just a sort of performative farce. I really do think so. I keep saying, Craig, you know,
his rubbish picked up yet? Macron, he's got time to come over here with the bin men back off strike yet?
Yeah, I think as we speak, his £5 million state visit has come to an end. 3 days of utter pointlessness. Why on earth did we roll out the red carpet for that little pipsqueak who hates us anyway? Absolutely absurd. Craig, great call. Good to talk to you, mate. Call me again. Craig in Oxford. Let's go to Kevin in Basingstoke. Hi, Kev.
Hello, Kevin.
You want to talk about the groundbreaking New Deal?
Well, yeah, I don't really think it's going to make much difference, but...
Yeah, well, that's the understatement of the year. But here, I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to say to you, I don't think it'll make any difference whatsoever.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, if there was an easy answer, I mean, we would already be doing it, and so would every other country.
Well, that's not true. There is an easy answer, Kevin, but we just don't do it. The easy answer would be to have a policy that we turn the boats around in the middle of the channel.
Yeah, but you can't just sail into French waters without permission.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Sure, you can.
No, there's rules about regarding the sea.
Well, ignore them. Ignore them. Just do it. It's
Well,
actually, it's not actually not. It's you know, there's always arguments in this, but lawyers have declared that it doesn't actually break. It wouldn't break maritime law to do that.
Well, what about if France just brings them straight back again?
Well, what do you mean? They're not going to actually put them in a French boat and bring them over, are they?
No, but if we put them in a British boat and bring them over, they can put them in a French boat.
No. We just turn them round, and tow them back.
Well, they haven't got enough petrol to get back, or there's people.
Well, we'll tow them back. We'll tow them back. No, you see, Kevin. Look, I can sense your heart is in the right place, but you're buying in to this Westminster claptrap that this is an incredibly complicated, complex situation that is very difficult to solve. It's actually not. Australia did it. Australia did it. I mean, they didn't turn the boats around because their boats were coming from thousands of miles away. But what they did is they just said, you turn up here on an illegal boat, then you've broken our laws, therefore you cannot claim asylum. We hereby deport you, and that's exactly what they did. So for them it was very easy. We could do that.
I can answer that, but I don't think I've got enough time. But if this policy did work, Nigel Farage would be devastated because it's his number one policy, just like leaving the EU, isn't it? He'd have to try to think of something else to sort of...
Well, it would work. You know, if we deported every illegal migrant, which is possible, or we turned the boats around, in Australia it took 3 weeks for the migrants who were coming down from Indonesia, Malaysia, and that kind of area. It took 3 weeks for them to get the message that when you get to Australia, they're going to kick you straight out. And guess what? They stopped coming.
Well, no, that's not true, because I looked online and it said that their policy cost over £1 million for one asylum seeker.
Yeah, but they kicked them all out. They took them to an island and they kicked them all out, and it took 3 weeks before they stopped coming. Once the message gets through, that's called a deterrent. And if the message got through to the migrants coming over from France that you don't get to stay in Britain, or maybe you don't even get to Britain, you get the boats turned around, you either get the boats turned around or you get immediately deported, they'd stop coming.
Well, no, because in France...
Well, they would. They would.
In Australia, since that policy was scrapped, 180,000 asylum seekers have tried to claim asylum in France, and they've
what's that got to do with Australia? What's that got to do with Australia? What's that got to do with Australia?
You brought up Australia.
No, well, what are you talking about France for? We're talking about Australia.
No, I meant to say Australia, sorry.
Right.
After they scrapped that policy,
They didn't scrap the policy. They didn't. They haven't scrapped the policy. They've still got it.
No, they haven't. They've scrapped that policy, and there's been 180,000 asylum seekers go to France. That some of them have been given Australia. Sorry, some of them have been given asylum, and the others have been relocated to countries that would accept them, and they want you to go to.
Well, you think that's good, do you? I mean, that's because they've got a lefty government now, haven't they? But their previous government did stop the migrants coming by deporting them. They took them to an island. They processed them in 3 weeks and said, you broke into our country illegally, you can't have asylum, sod off. That's what they did, and it worked.
Well, do you know when the number of started to skyrocket of asylum seekers coming to the UK is when we left the EU? But before that, the figure used to just go up and down gradually. But when we left the EU, the number that came...
Yeah, but that was before all sorts of factors in the Middle East and in Africa that started this exodus from the Middle East and from African nations across the Mediterranean up through Europe to Calais. That wasn't anything to do with the EU. That was the changing face of geopolitics.
Yeah, but when we was in the EU... You're
saying that we should get back in the EU, that would solve the migrant crisis?
Well, it would solve the... Do
you want us to get back in the EU?
GDP crisis.
Oh, would it really? Do you want us to get back in the EU, do you?
Well, yeah, I would love to. I want my freedom.
Are you sure you're listening to the right channel?
Well, it's nice to have somebody that's on the opposite side now.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, you're right. It's good to hear an alternative viewpoint. But I've got about 50 other calls here, and all 49 other people on the switchboard, they would disagree with you.
Well, yeah,
the EU is a sclerotic, useless organisation. Didn't do us any good. We've got a better economy now. Our economy is crap, but it's better than France and Germany's.
Well, it's not better than...
Well, it is. It is actually. It is actually. Look it up. Look it up. Look it up.
But they haven't got the issues of Brexit, though, have they?
What do you mean? France hasn't got the issue of Brexit?
No, they have got their own issues. I mean, Brexit has affected them as well. It's affected everybody.
Oh, I'm really sorry it's affected them. Really, really sorry about that.
You know, it's much more expensive to export to the EU now, and a lot of businesses are not even bothering.
Yeah, but it's worth it so we can make our own laws, isn't it? We can govern our own country. Don't you think it's a good thing that we don't have to bow and scrape to a European government?
Well, no, we can't. We don't make our own regulations. That's why we've got bottles.
Well, who does then? Brussels?
We've got bottles.
Who does make our laws then? Brussels?
Because that's an EU law.
What is?
So we have to accept that law, or we can't export.
Yeah, well, you're right insofar as we should have done more to completely sever ties with the EU. We've been a little bit lax in that. I agree with that, but we should go all the way. And the idea is we make our own decisions, we govern our own country, and we guard our own sovereign borders, and we don't get told what to do by foreigners in Brussels. What's wrong with that?
No, if we didn't follow their rules, we wouldn't be able to export our goods to them, would they? They wouldn't accept substandard goods.
We don't have to follow their rules.
We do.
All EU, we have to follow all... I think you need... Kevin, you really need to read up on this. You really do. Yeah, you got to stop reading. Stop following the cartoons in the Guardian and start reading a proper publication and start learning all about this, because you're talking a lot of claptrap.
And where should I be reading it then?
Try the Daily Telegraph. Or the Sun, or the Times. So Daily Telegraph, the Sun, and the Times. They'll help you.
That's not independent, is it?
What are you talking about independent? I didn't say anything. I told you. I'm giving you some advice. I'm giving you advice on what to read. I didn't say anything about independence.
Advice, is it?
Huh?
It's not independent advice. It's biased advice, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
They've got.
What do you think I am? Do you think I'm not biased?
Well, yeah, I think you might be, but.
Well, no, I am biased. I am biased.
I know you are.
So,
I know you are. That's why.
There's nothing wrong with being biased, As long as you admit it. As long as you admit it, there's nothing wrong with being biased. The BBC is biased, but it doesn't admit it. That's very wrong. I admit that I'm biased.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you're biased, Kevin, but I feel
that doesn't really wash with you because you think that's an inherent criticism, don't you?
Well, no,
you're
it's
just biased. It's really bad, isn't it? You're biased.
No, I'm just saying that you're biased, yes, and you're telling me to get my information from a source that's biased as well.
Yeah, I am.
Well, that's not, I'm not going to know
because they're biased in the right direction. The Times, the Sun, and the Telegraph are biased, and the Mail. The Mail will help you as well. Don't read the Guardian. Don't read the Guardian. Well, I mean, why would you read the Guardian? Only 7 people do read it. You know, it's got a circulation of a kind of tiny little local paper because it's crap.
It's not crap.
It is crap. You do read the Guardian, don't you? You read the damn Guardian. You read the Guardian, don't you? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't know what to say, Kevin. It's good talking to you, mate, but you need help. You really do. I got to go, man. But give me a call again. That was funny. It's Kevin in Basingstoke with his copy of The Guardian. I feel like doing a Mike Graham now. You know, Mike Graham used to rip The Guardian up and chuck it at the screen. I should do that now. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy here. I think we need to go to break now. When we come back, more calls, more messages, more WhatsApp voice notes. Stick around.
The other thing that concerns me about that, the narrative that I'm talking about now is one that you will agree with, I'm sure, and most people will, but it has, with the rise, and this isn't a criticism of reform, they've done incredibly well in sort of building the momentum that they have, but this unworkable scheme that they've got, it's very seductive, very attractive idea, you know, 4-point plan for stopping the boats, does not survive contact with political, diplomatic, legal, or operational reality.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A few WhatsApp voice notes fairly soon. I think Ash will be in the studio. Flash Ash Gould to tell you what him and Andre Walker have got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. into the small hours with those two, the dynamic duo. Here is Darren on Starmer and Macron.
If this was serious by Keir Starmer and Macron, what they would have done is said, we're going to stop all the boats. We'll stop them leaving the beaches, and if they get away, when you pick them up mid-channel, will bring them back to Calais. What they will do is stop the demand overnight. Within a week, the boats will stop. The second thing Keir Starmer wants to do, apparently, I only want to bring people over, legal migrants, people with passports, with ID, that can justify coming into the UK. OK, if that's the case, agree a number, whether that's 10,000, 20,000, whatever, with Keir Starmer a year, and those will be the documented ones, documented in Calais. Then we've got no lawyers to pay for, no challenges, nothing. Think of all the money we could save. That's too simple, isn't it?
Well, the thing is there, Darren, a very good note, by the way. You started off by saying if they were serious, and therein lies the rub. They're not serious. It's just a bit of headline grabbing. This ain't going to happen. Right, here's Tristan on the death penalty.
100%. I think it should definitely be brought in. If something is absolutely 100% that someone has committed a heinous crime, I mean, the crime that Axel Rugabana committed, I mean, that's a given. I think it's definitely something that needs to be thought about, because some of these crimes that are happening are just getting worse and worse and worse, and there is no actual deterrent. Even when they go into jail, they still are actually committing crimes like Axel Rugabana did when he poured hot water over a guard. So absolutely, death penalty, I think, is something definitely got to be brought up. Definitely. Great show.
Yeah, thanks, Tristan. I mean, I kind of agree. You know, you look at what he did, that monster, and you think, well, you know, why are we all so lily-livered about the death penalty? Wouldn't it be better if you could get rid of an animal like that? Lastly, here's Rob on one in, one out.
Kev, what's going to happen when, say, with this one in, one out policy, yeah, say if they send over a migrant, who's going to be to blame if he turns out to be a radical Islamist and does something in the country? Is it going to be the French for sending him over? Is it going to be Starmer for having him in the country? Or the person who actually said that he could come into the country? Because it's only going to be an amount of time before one of them turns out to be a runganese. A great show again, Kev.
That's right, Rob, and it could be the other way round, because the ones we'll be sending back could be one of the the vast majority of the migrants that we let in that we know nothing about. So we could easily send the French back a terrorist. That could happen both ways. That's a very good point. Lastly, last quick call from Mandy in Felixstowe. Hello, Mandy. You want to talk about Greg Wallace's underwear, do you?
Hi, good evening, Kevin. Yes, I'm offended by that bloke. My son was autistic and neurodiverse, as they call him.
Yeah.
He did nothing like that. If that stupid prat cannot deal with labels, cut the frigging things out.
Yeah, well, the thing is, that's a good point, Manny. But I think a lot of people, so you're talking about your son who's got genuine issues, you know, and a lot of people are saying that Greg Wallace playing the autism card undermines the seriousness of what your son is suffering from, yes?
Well, what he was suffering from, I lost him nearly 2 years ago, but...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's undermining people with autism.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, he's playing that card, and I don't think it does him any favours at all. Mandy, I'm really sorry about your son, but thank you very much for ringing. I've got to go because it's nearly the end of the show, but you can call me any time, and it was good to talk to you briefly. Mandy in Felixstowe. Ash is in the studio. Flash, Ash.
How you doing? It was a good show, Kev, is it?
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, we're on fire, mate.
We're doing a lot of what you're talking about, me and Andre. We've got Alex Dyke on, the former...
From the Beeb, yeah.
From the Beeb. We've got John Mappin, who was the owner of the Camelot Hotel of the Mappin and Webb dynasty, and he turned down a massive multi-million-pound offer.
I remember him, because they go to these hotels and say, here's 50 million quid.
Yeah.
All you have to do is move out,
and sack all your stuff.
And he refused to do it. He's a hero. He's a hero.
Tintagel, the Camelot Castle Hotel. So, you know, booked there. But I suppose, you know...
Tintagel, I know that one.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Cornwall, yeah.
But you can't blame other hotel people who were on their uppers after COVID, but, you know, good on him for doing that. Greg Wallace, we're talking about that as well. You know, he's on the spectrum where you don't wear pants. There's all different kinds of it.
Yeah.
We've got the doctor's strike, 5 days. They're not the same. Doctors would never have struck, you know, 10 years. Is that the correct grammar?
Yeah, I think that's the past participle for striking.
Yeah. Trigger warnings.